guys? Ryan of Somewhere in the live stream. We are going to be breaking down all the latest UFO news with our special guest, Dan Zetterström, the host of the What It Means to Be Human podcast. So much to talk about, and it starts right now.
I've just been somewhere in the United States where I know there is another portal.
One of the subjects described being, how should we say, by reptilians.
What?
Yeah.
So there's bad beings in there?
Oh.
That is the narrative on the internet, and what I've been told is that's not the location.
Do you? I obviously don't expect you to reveal it, but do you know the location so you could go if you got permission?
Yes.
Pax River as a location where there was a facility built out for $10 million to hold the non-human intelligence craft. I've been warned not to talk about this. Fuck that, man.
I had the rare opportunity to present my ideas to an executive with the Department of Defense who worked in special access programs in an area called Watertown, also known as Area 51. That meeting led to multiple clandestine encounters across the United States, from desert airports to vacant buildings deep within Washington, D.C.
A retired Air Force general with reported ties to one of the most famous UFO research sites in the United States seemingly has vanished in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Major General William McCaslin, the former commander of the Air Force Research Laboratory at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, has now been missing for nearly a week.
While our government's official position is not to speculate on this subject, we can choose to let our minds explore other possibilities, to use our imaginations. For if we consider that astroscientists agree on one point, that the possibility of life elsewhere is not only quite probable, some feel it is there without a doubt. Let us suppose then that these objects are real space vehicles, extraterrestrial in origin, and not an illusion of the mind.
There's nothing to hide. There's nothing to hide at all.
What is up? Longest intro in history. Sorry about that, guys, but welcome to Somewhere in the live stream. I am your host, Ryan Sprague, and I'm back, baby. I'm back home in Scotland. It's been 3 months since I've been in this apartment, since I've been back where I belong, and it feels so, so good to sleep in my own bed and drink my own drinks and make my own food. And thank you for dealing with those last 3 crazy months. If anyone knows what it's like to travel, it is our special guest co-host tonight. I'll be bringing him in just a little bit. But hello to all the regulars in the chat. I see some new people popping up here as well. Welcome to Somewhere in the live stream, a live stream we try to do every Sunday here at the Somewhere in the Skies podcast, where we break down all the latest UFO and UAP related news. And man, we got a lot for you guys tonight that we're going to cover with our special guest co-host, Dan Zetterström. So I'll be bringing him in just a few. But before we do that, guys, a couple really fun things to share with you. I see a lot of you saying, yeah, why is it starting an hour late? I totally forgot that there was a time change in the United States. It took me talking to my father in New York today to realize that. And I'm like, oh, crap. So I had to check with Dan to make sure he was still good to do the show tonight. And he's so incredible in giving with his time. But yeah, for all of you in the US and whatnot, I do apologize. They're starting an hour later for you, but I wanted to keep it consistent for all of our European watchers and listeners tonight. I know we have a lot of you who also stay up kind of late. It's 9:15 p.m. here in the UK. So let's get things going. Super chat and super stickers are open all night. So if you guys would like to help out the show, that is a very easy way to do it. We will highlight your super chats. We will highlight your questions for Dan and I tonight and try to get to those at the end of the show. The best way to do that is through the super chat, and you will be helping support all of the work that we do here at Somewhere in the Sky. So that'll be open all night for you guys. The last thing before we start with the UFO news and bring Dan in, rate and review, please. I cannot ask for more than that from you guys. If you cannot help us out financially, the easiest thing to do is to rate and review the Somewhere in the Skies podcast. We did have a few new reviews come in on Apple that I'm going to just read really quick for you guys here. And then you know what that means? Code word. I've got a code word for you guys for next week. But this one came from Dadbod Pod Fan. Love that handle. Award winning for a reason. 5 stars. That's very kind of you, Dad Bod. Full disclosure, I love this podcast and I'm not the only one. Warning, this review is long and overdue. I test the bounds of Apple's character limits. Whether I'm commuting 2 hours to or from work or winding down for the night, there is no voice or vibe I'd rather have in my ears. I did just crop this out, guys. This review is probably about 3 pages long. So I want to thank Dad Bod Pod Fan for that. That is beyond generous of you. So every word I will take to heart, and I truly appreciate this review. So thank you. Last 2 here we have from Berto3003. 5 stars. This is a great show. Sometimes you have to listen to something that's more positively driven when the news every day can be so depressing. Ryan is clearly passionate about extraterrestrial life, and he puts a lot of effort into the show. Keep up the good work, Ryan. Thank you, Berto. I hope to, my friend, and I can't do it without you guys. So thank you. And last but not least, phone owner, bunch of numbers says, we have the government that lies to us so much. They gave us 5 stars and they say, we cannot trust the government. We don't even get to know what the whistleblowers are disclosing. It's all just a show, and everyone is part of the deception. It's just the same old circus show of lies. Man, phone owner has some thoughts and opinions there, and I can relate. I can relate. Some of that stuff we may even be talking about tonight. So yeah, those are our latest Apple podcast reviews, guys. And you know what that means. Code word. Wah, wah. I need that sound effect. Wah, wah, wah. Man, that brings me back to the early 2000s. Dan, I see you laughing. God, I'm so old. Your code word for next week, guys, that I want you to put somewhere in your Apple Podcast review or somewhere in your Spotify comments when this goes up on Spotify as a podcast episode is DMT. That will make a lot of sense in just a little bit when we get to the news. Once again, somewhere in your Apple Podcast reviews or Spotify comments, put the code word DMT, and I will know that you watched this episode or listened to this episode, and we will shout you out on the next live stream. Please and thank you. Love it. There I am. Nice and small. Man, I am rusty. One more thing before I bring Dan in. There's that white whale, right? That you guys all have, whether it's a UFO case, whether it's a UFO documentary that you've been meaning to watch, or something you just have not gotten to, or something that has eluded you for so long. For over 25 years now, one UFO book has eluded me. I have been trying to get my hands on it. Every UFO researcher I've spoken to I tried to get leads on getting one of these. If anyone had an extra copy, nobody. And the cheapest one I could try to find was like $400, $500 on eBay and whatnot. And it just depressed the hell out of me because I've been looking for this book forever. I've just wanted to have it in my hands. And I have to thank 2 individuals for what I'm about to show you. The first being Michael Huntington. So if you're watching or listening, Michael, he was the one that put me on to this lead, and that was the one and only Ben Moss, UFO researcher Ben Moss. Now, for those of you who don't know, he is basically a student or apprentice of the late Ray Stanford, who wrote the pinnacle book, I would say, on the Socorro UFO case. And that is Socorro Saucer in a Pentagon Pantry. I got it. I got it. My white whale. I can't even express like how exciting this is for me to be holding this. And it's like in pristine condition. And there's a reason for that. Now, when Ray Stanford, when we lost him a couple years ago now, Ben was able to get into his house because, you know, Ray left him a lot of things, wanted him to have a lot of things. And Ben found a unopened box of this book with pristine copies. Never saw the light of day. Left them to Ben. And Ben was kind enough to give me this copy. So I want to shout him out right now. For any of you who may be interested in getting a copy of this book, he is selling them. You can get these. Go over to eBay, type in the book, you will find it. We'll put a link in the show notes as well. But I want to thank Ben for being so incredibly kind and giving me a hell of a deal on that book, to say the least. And while we're at it, I want to shout out his book as well, Not of This World, the 1964 Socorro UFO with Humanoids, Witness Policeman Lonnie Zamora by Ben Moss. Now, we will have Ben on the show in the very near future to talk about Ray Stanford's work in the Socorro case and Ben's continued work on the Socorro case right now. So be on the lookout for that on the Somewhere in the Skies podcast in the near future. So again, my special thanks to Michael Huntington and Ben Moss for making this ufologist dream truly come true. I can quit now. I'm done. Show's yours, Dan. Good luck, buddy. You got a lot on your plate now, man. I tried doing 2 podcasts, failed miserably, back down to 1. But anyways, let's bring him in. He has waited long enough in the green room. Good Lord, I'm surprised he's still here. So I do want to thank him and bring him in. It is the one, the only Dan Zetterström. Welcome, my friend.
Thank you so much for having me, and what a fun intro. I did have to look up because I thought Dad Bod Pod is such a great name, and there is a podcast already called Dad Bod Pod, which is a lot of fun.
Oh my gosh, I wonder if it's his podcast.
Well, I guess we'll find out. We'll have to have a look.
Yeah.
That
whole
also,
yeah.
Go on.
Oh, I was gonna say the dad bod thing. I'm starting to relate to that, man. I'm getting up there. I'm not gonna lie. So I appreciated the name, but please continue.
I was just gonna say that guy really owned phones, huh? That second review there was very hilarious. And also, I've been watching the chat, and I know you would if you saw it. You probably haven't seen it, but happy birthday, Robert. He's in our chat right now. It's his birthday. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, my friend. Robert has been with us since the very beginning, Dan. So I want to give him a special shout out. I did not see that. Happy birthday to Robert, guys. I know a lot of you already have, but if you haven't, wish him a very happy birthday. And thanks for spending your birthday with us, man. That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool. He's
so
one of
cool.
one of our regulars in our Discord as well. So gotta love him and shout him out for holding that down.
Yeah, absolutely. Congratulations on another orbit around the sun. You made it. The world is chaos. You know, enjoy the party. As people have noticed as well, UFO mom, Susan, is out today. So this is where the party is today. We're going to trash the house, I think.
Yep. We got the older kids, bought the beer. They're bringing it in just a little bit. Some friends might have some other stuff they might be bringing. But yeah. Suzanne, if you are watching, we want to give our love and thanks to her as well. She felt so bad she couldn't make it tonight, but she's out wandering, partying herself out there in New Mexico. So I believe is it New Mexico? I don't want to give away where she is actually. But yeah, she sends her love to all of you guys. We will try to hold it down here in the chat tonight. I don't know how she does it, man. I'm missing so much good stuff here, but I'm going to try as we're going through the news.
It's difficult.
It is, man.
Book you got is so cool. Like, what a find. Way back up. So my white whale was this was before I kind of started doing UFO podcasts, but I really wanted the original run of Single Watchmen comics. And it was just as that Zack Snyder movie was coming out. So I was like, I've got to get them before this movie comes out because they're just going to go up in price. And I could not find the first issue for Love No Money. And then I was hitting refresh on eBay at 1 a.m. one night, and some guy found an unopened box. So I have a pristine #1 Watchman. That was my right whale.
Wow. And that's what happened with me. It's crazy how that goes. It's always this hidden box in the basement. Or
Right.
something, right? It
Yeah.
makes me wonder, dude. Like, I think it was David Marler who was telling me the story about how, like, they found thousands of UFO files in someone's like leaky, flooded basement, and they were just gonna throw them out. And they were like, maybe someone might want these. Who would I reach out? And like, and that was like the QFOS files or something like that. Could you
Wow.
imagine? Those things would have been lost to time, and we never
Yeah.
would have known. We never would have known. It's
That's
crazy.
crazy. Yeah, like the things that I mean, like it reminds me of the Nag Hammadi scrolls, right? The Dead Sea Scrolls, how they were
Yeah.
found. That way back when some persecuted people were like, "Oh, we'll just put them in this hole in the ground and some up there in a cave, and no one will ever find them. Maybe one day they'll be preserved." And then some dude just out throwing rocks, bored, whilst he's herding his sheep, and he throws a rock into a cave and he hears something smash, and is like, "What's that?" And it turns out he smashed the pot that contained the scrolls. Thousands of years later, wild. The universe is crazy.
The universe truly is crazy, man. I feel like it's getting crazier too with some of these stories we're going to
Yeah.
be talking about tonight. Before we get to those, special shout out James Craig, $20 super chat. Let's get this party started. Love it. And to Garrett as well. Where's our UFO mom? We just answered that for you, my man. But we will send her your love as well. Thank you, guys. We have a goal of 5 of those super chats tonight. If we reach it, I'll do a special top 5 video for you guys this week as well. Whoring myself out, baby. You know, times are tough. So, yeah.
top
Thank you,
top
guys.
5 places you like to be touched in public.
Yes.
Nothing.
Yes, right.
It's safer work, if it's in public.
Totally. At least people will know where I am. That's right. Some sort of insurance when we leak all the UFO secrets, right? Dude, I want to start with this story because I love actually these 2 stories I think are right up your alley because this one has to do with alien life, something you cover a lot over on your show as well, what it means to be human, which I want to talk about in just a little bit. But this is pretty exciting. Basically, aliens may have been trying to contact us for decades. We may have been looking for the wrong thing. I just happened to find the story like right before we went on tonight, and I was like, huh, you know what? There's so many different ways that SETI has attempted to look for alien life, whether it's through signals, radio transmissions, all that sort of stuff. But no one ever really talks about like what could deter those signals from even making it to us.
Yeah.
And this article kind of covers that. So I'm going to read just a little bit here, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this. So, for decades, the search for ET has focused on detecting extremely narrow radio signals, sharp frequency spikes unlikely to be produced by natural cosmic processes. But new research suggests this approach may be too restrictive. Turbulent stellar environments can distort radio transmissions before they leave their home systems, causing the signal to broaden across a wider range of frequencies. By the time it reaches Earth, a once precise signal may appear smeared, allowing it to slip past detection systems designed specifically to identify razor-thin radio spikes. So scientists, Dan, are now arguing that the long-standing great silence in the search for alien technosignatures may partly reflect limitations in our detection methods rather than the absence of ET transmitters. Stellar plasma and activity, particularly around common M dwarf stars, can reshape signals in ways current searches may overlook. So researchers suggest future SETI efforts should account for these broadened signals, adjusting detection methods to reflect how transmissions would realistically arrive at Earth rather than how they might originally be sent. So, yeah, man, space weather might be getting in the way of us finally getting that signal we've always waited for. So, what do you think? What do you think of this story?
So space weather is crazy. There are so many kind of like natural phenomena out there that affect signals. And that's just talking about, going from our GPS kind of satellites orbiting around us to Earth. that we need to be aware of it. And I think as we kind of move into the cosmos, we'll probably start getting like space weather reports, this week, folks, we're going through a plasma nebula and your messages will take 20 minutes longer to send, like that kind of stuff.
What this means for your commute to work.
Right, exactly. There's going to be some traffic. But yeah, looking in the wrong place. It's one of those things that it seems obvious when they say it, right? Like, oh yeah, but at the same time, scientists work from the known to the unknown. And what we look for are, signals like ours, radio signals, TV signals, that kind of stuff. But also we look out into the cosmos and we look for something called a hydrogen line. And hydrogen is basically one of the most abundant elements throughout the universe. And the signal, when we scan space from it, is really narrow. So it being natural, abundant, and narrow means that if you wanted to communicate to another species, it would be very likely that if you manipulated that somehow, they would be able to read that. That's what we thought for years, but this thing comes along and it's ruined it, right? Like it's told us something we didn't know. And this is the important thing I think to take from it. People always quote Carl Sagan and say extraordinary evidence requires extraordinary proof, but they always forget the quote that Carl Sagan said, which was, absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. And I think that's so true. So just because we can't find it, it doesn't mean they're not there. It's kind of like me going, I'm going to go look for Orion Sprague. And I'll look under a rock just outside this RV and go, he's not here. Therefore, Ryan doesn't exist. That's not the case, right? You're in Scotland. You're not under a rock outside my RV. That's crazy. So we kind of have to like broaden what we're looking for, how we're looking for it. Techno signatures, great if something is like us. The chances of it being like us are very, very, very slim. So this is a really great news story. Did you know that this same issue pops up in so many like different parts of what we do already? It's kind of crazy that we didn't apply it before now. When a submarine sends a signal to the surface, they have to account for how that signal travels in water. And depending on how deep the water is and the pressure affects how the signal travels. So they kind of go in bands up to the surface and they assume it's going to be refracted and they kind of work with it in that way. So they understand the natural phenomena. So then they can kind of back engineer how to retrieve that signal out of the water because, it'll be coming out in a specific place. That's why we have all these kind of like relays on buoys all around the world, because that's what they do. They just pick up subsignals. We also had something with the James Webb, where if you look at some of the images, you'll see kind of like bent galaxies. And those galaxies were found, and we didn't know this a few years ago, but it was found to be a duplicate of a galaxy already in the image. So when you look at these James Webb pictures, half of what you're looking at is actually a duplication, and it's duplicated because the gravitational pull of an object that the light is passing by, it pulls that light and it changes it. And so it kind of appears on one side and on the other side as well. Same phenomenon happens when we're looking at black holes. The gravity is so strong that it just changes the shape of it. It's not kind of what we see as from our perspective. So understanding the medium something is moving through and the phenomena that can affect it as it's moving through it is absolutely important. And I'm really glad they finally got to the point where they're like, yeah, maybe we're just not, we're looking for smoke signals and we're not looking for iPhone signals. Very different things.
Very good. That like put it into perspective for me. If we don't understand, the space in which we're trying to get a signal, we'll never truly know like where it's coming from, how long it's been coming from somewhere, and that's such a good point. Such a good point. Wow, and it makes me think now. All these we've been hearing for a decade at this point now of we shouldn't so much be looking in space for these non-human intelligence, but in our oceans. So how many times has something possibly tried to communicate with us and we just missed it because of some of those reasons you brought up about the submarines? Even
Right.
It's we truly have to understand and back engineer. And I love this that they're pointing out issues that we didn't even know existed, and that's what science is. So I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, absolutely. I just finished reading a book called Kryptos Conundrum, and it was written by the guy who was essentially like the military liaison to Hollywood. It doesn't play into it a lot. I read it because someone said to me, "Oh, there might be some truth in here." I don't think there is, but it's a cool little sci-fi thing about you know aliens coming to Earth and kind of what's beyond death and so on and so forth. That's by the by, though. The bit that stands out is there's this whole section in it where when the aliens come to Earth, obviously they don't have our names for things and they don't speak English, right? So they're not going to go, let's hide in the ocean. And they had all their own names for these things. And translated in the book, they referred to the ocean as the liquisphere. And I was like, oh, I like that. Because they're looking at our planet as
writing
matter.
that down.
So they're like, okay, we have a liquisphere, we probably have a magmasphere, we have an airsphere. You know, it's not surface, ocean, underground. And I thought that was really interesting.
I love that. I love that. We're now using liquisphere. It's done. Done. All right, my friend. Well, I want to continue in the scope of like communicating with entities, possible non-human entities. And, you know, there's so many different ways that SETI has attempted to do this. But this is one, I have to be completely honest, I never even really thought of. And that is DMT SETI. Possibly communicating with aliens through DMT. This is where our next story comes with the headline, New Psychedelic Retreat Aims to Establish Two-Way Communication with Non-Human Entities. So back in 2022, volunteers at Imperial College London participated in the first clinical study of extended DMT, a method that delivers the psychedelic, I can't even say this word, so DMT will have to suffice, through a controlled intravenous infusion. The technique allowed researchers to sustain the normally brief DMT experience for far longer while monitoring brain activity with EEG. Participants like Anton Bilton reported intensely vivid journeys in which they perceived encounters with strange, seemingly intelligent entities, an experience frequently described by DMT users and now becoming a focus of scientific investigation. Building on this research, neurobiologist Andrew Gallimore is launching Eleusis, a psychedelic retreat and research facility on the Caribbean island of Bacaya, I believe. Bacaya, let's go with that, where supervised DMT sessions will explore both therapeutic effects and reports of entity encounters. Before we continue here, Dan, I have a brief clip from the Danny Jones podcast with Andrew Gallimore, and he kind of talks about these patterns that he's seen when it comes to people going on DMT and communicating or coming into contact with different entities in the world of DMT. So I thought I'd play that really quick. And then I want to get your thoughts, because you may or may not have some stories to tell that could relate to this as well. So do you mind if I play that clip quick?
Go ahead, my friend.
Awesome. Let me find it here. All right, here we go.
A question about, do people see the same things? Everyone's experience is certainly different, but there are certain universal DMT motifs, if you like, that many people describe. The structure, the ambience of the space, the geometry, and also, of course, the beings within the space, the so-called DMT entities. And this goes back, I mean, of course, it goes back to these indigenous tribes in Amazonia who are using DMT. They used it to communicate with beings. They call them spirits or gods, right? We might have a different name for them now, but certainly it was clear that this is a characteristic feature of the DMT experience is the experience of other beings. And Stephen Zara, so you mentioned these elves, right? Terence McKenna, the elves, the machine elves, as Terence McKenna called them, they're by far the most famous denizens of these hyperdimensional realms. There's no doubt about that. And many people like to say, well, people see elves because McKenna saw elves and McKenna spoke about elves, so that's why you're seeing elves. And it's like, it's hard to get past that. So what we did actually a few years back is to go back to the original trip reports. Let's go back to the 1950s. Look at the trip reports there. Stephen Zara's very first study. Now, unfortunately, back then, they weren't that interested in the kind of the details of the trip report. This is not like Rick Strassman's study in the 90s, where he carefully had them, write down everything they experienced. So if they would say, "Oh, I saw hallucinations," but even within these old papers, you get these little snippets of trip reports that had back then the characteristic DMT flavor. So they were describing this rapidly changing, rapid procession of complex geometric imagery. They were describing beings that they called gods, language of the time, or they would call them spirits. That was the lexicon of the time, if you like. You see some kind of non-human intelligence and you refer to it as a spirit. Nowadays, we might call it something else. But one of Stephen Zara's first subjects described these little dwarf-like beings that moved around very quickly. That's all we got. But to me, this is part of the characteristic of these DMT elves, these very sprightly, lively beings, often very cheerful, and they kind of welcome you into the space, and they love to show you things all the time. Look at this, look at this, look at this. They were there in the first trip reports, and then through the 60s and on, with people like Timothy Leary describing elf-like beings and insectoid-like beings and reptilians, and there are certain types reptilians, man, and they can be ferocious. In Rick Strassman's study, one of the subjects described being how should we say, raped by reptilians.
What?
Yeah.
So there's bad beings in there?
Oh.
Interesting way to end that clip. I apologize, everyone. I should have put a trigger warning there. But yeah, let's what do you think, Dan? Machine elves, entities, DMT. Is this a way that we can possibly communicate with non-human intelligence? What are your thoughts on this story? Oh, I think you're muted.
I was muted. A classic. I was on mute. There you go.
Classic.
Just bringing it back. So I actually have some experience with this. DMT has been something that I wanted to experience since I read about it and I heard about, these machine elves communicating with these other beings, stuff like that. I was like, yeah, let's go. I want to try it. But in all my reading, people always said, she comes to you, as in DMT comes to you when you're ready for it. So I kind of let it go and I let it find me when it found me. And I got to partake in 2 ceremonies over 2 years in Colombia, right kind of on the edge of the Amazon. And the first one was kind of like a 20-person thing where there were a bunch of strangers there. We were just in a big tent, and we took it under the guidance of the shaman. And it was a really cool experience because it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. Ayahuasca itself, which is one of many different plant medicines that has DMT in it, it has effects on you that are different each time. So both times that I did it were extremely different. But like Andrew said, there are motifs that are kind of similar that stick through the experiences. And it kind of gives you a shared knowledge. And I recognize that sounds crazy, so let me explain. So when I did my very, very first retreat with the strangers, at one point in the night, you take this stuff and we're talking, you take it at 12 midnight and you're finishing the kind of the journey probably at about 8, 9 a.m. And it's completely silent. Like you're not allowed to talk. There's music. People play music that is inspired by, ayahuasca apparently gave them this music that they play. And it's meant to ease you into it. but it's a long time, right? That you just kind of sat there, kind of experiencing this stuff. And at one point, I went down to the bathroom, and it was down on the side of this mountain, just like a hole in the floor, you know? So I'm kind of walking as the world's like warping around me. And I'm just like, okay, I just got to get to the bathroom. And on the way back, I found a hat. And you know, when you just find an object, you know, you'll be like, oh, someone left a shoe or someone left a hat kind of thing. Immediately for me, I knew whose it was. It told me whose it was. And I was like, oh, you're important. I need to get you back to your person. So I picked it up and I went back into the tent and I walked over and gave it to this guy whose name I don't know. And I said, this is yours. And he burst out crying because he thought he'd lost it. It was a hat that his nan gave him before he passed away. And he just keeps it kind of in his coat pocket and he holds it for comfort. So no one had seen it. I'd never met him. I didn't know his name. And yet, under this experience, it just kind of went, oh, I belong here. Can you bring me? And I was like, okay. And it just all worked out. And it was the weirdest thing, you know, as it's happening in my head. I'm thinking like, what? How do I know? How does the hat know who owns it? This is so strange. So when I think of entities in those spaces, I kind of think of that hat, you know, like in my brain, it almost has eyes and a mouth, like it is a being. Everything has consciousness when you're kind of in these medicinal states. So when I hear people talking about things like machine elves, I'm always careful to kind of remember they're grasping for language of a strange experience, right? It's not an elf like we see in Disney or, you know, like Snow White, that kind of thing. No, they were dwarves. Someone correct me, that's correct. But they are just very different. Just so you know, it is said dimethyltryptamine. That's what it stands for, DMT. And Andrew's really leaning into something interesting here with his, did you say it was called the Lucis?
Yes, correct.
So that's a dog whistle right there. Thousands of years ago, Plato and people like him would take a journey to Eleusis. And there they would take a DMT mixture that would give them the mysteries of the universe. And there was a big kind of controversy a few years back because Brian Murarescu wrote a book called The Immortality Key. And it was all about how religion back in the day, you know, when they said like, oh, Jesus was giving out wine. It's not wine like we think of it now. It was really strong. So it was hallucinogenic. So people are having these holy experiences because of these really strong drugs in church, and it's being given to them by church so that they can kind of go, wow, there is a God. Okay, I'll subscribe to this religion then, you know? But also at the same time, the thing that was controversial was that it was kind of like spilling out. They found, I say they, archaeologists found in the basement of like a really old bakery that was around when this was happening, that there were bowls with this mixture like dried onto the bottom. So they found basically that the lower classes were also partaking in this stuff. And kind of so the mystery wasn't so much it's God and you should be part of this religion. People were also finding their own way. And that's where we got like Gnosticism from, because they, you know, would go in a different direction. They'd interpret it in a different way. And I think that's fascinating, right? How many times do we hear about the Dead Sea Scrolls and not get told, no, they took drugs in a different place and they saw something different and that's what they ascribed the universe to. Religion makes a lot more sense when you kind of think of it in that way, right? Like the burning bush. If that was a bush of something that burnt DMT into the air, then Moses is tripping while he's talking to it. But the question is, was he talking to one of these entities? Or was he talking to something like the hat I encountered, right? That was telling him, like, I am nature and this is what you have to do to be in harmony with the planet. And, you know, just go down there, say, I am that I am, and tell people this is the right way to be. It's really interesting to kind of figure all that out. But yeah, it's strange that people across different times and cultures have similar experiences. When I went through the ceremony, I asked her kind of a few questions because I wanted to know what it was about. And I said, you know, who's the first person to figure this out? Because it's not just something that you pick off a tree and take. It's one ingredient mixed with another ingredient from the other area of the Amazon. And then it kind of like, the one ingredient is the yahe root, where that contains the DMT. And then there's another ingredient that suppresses your body's ability to process DMT. Otherwise, you wouldn't have the experience. So at some point, someone figured this out and put it together. So I was like, who did it? And the shaman in my ceremony explained to me that different regions of the Amazon have different types of things like ayahuasca and all these other plant medicines, because they were brought to them by the spirits of the forest. The particular one that I was drinking, they called Panther Yahe, because the panther spirit in another ceremony came to someone and said, hey, you should combine these two things, and they will do this, and then you can talk to us. And then they did. And now it's become, common practice that we're talking about here, right? So it seems like ancient civilizations, and even modern ones that are just more accepting of this stuff and their history, are very much just shrugging at the fact that this is a space that you step into that exists kind of outside of you, and people have similar experiences in these spaces. When I went in, did I see any entities? Yes, I did. The very first time, and I can show you her, actually, because I had her tattooed.
Whoa.
So this is, you'll notice.
Whoops, I think you muted the mic on accident.
Sorry.
There we go. That's okay.
Start
over.
You'll notice it's unfinished.
Yeah.
And that's because as I'm traveling, I was taught to collect things. So I just kind of, every time I find somewhere really cool, I'll add something. So I have Starry Night there. This is a cross section of the meteor that killed the dinosaurs that I got done with in the actual place where the meteor hit. Glowing plankton. Then this is like Alabrije style. And the reason I got that is because when people make Alabrije, they're like really colorful animal statues, basically, in Mexico and South America. And the way it was said it was done would be that the shaman would take DMT and he would walk into the jungle, and an animal bone would present itself and tell him what it wanted to be colored. So this is like really sacred art. And when I was there, I went to the house, the original guy that kind of, did it and popularized it and stuff. So I got that done right there as well. But that serpent, so there's a memory. I'll show you.
Okay.
Basically, after about, I want to say 5 hours of being like, where are the entities? And being sad about it. I went out to sit by the fire, and the sun was kind of coming up over the mountain. And as it did, I saw an eye open in the fire, and this iridescent serpent came out, made a kind of infinity symbol in the air, told me, hey, why are you so upset that you haven't met me? I've been with you this whole time. And she said to me that instead of living on my spine, she would come down to my arm now, which is why I had that put on my arm so that I could see her. I grabbed my notebook and some charcoal from the fire in front of me, and I drew just kind of what I was seeing, basically. Really, basic sketch, but it's really cool. That's a little charcoal picture from when I did it. And it captures the vibe. So it wasn't just entities as well. This stuff really kicks your ass and makes you reflect. For me, my intention going in was to address my guilt around not talking to my dad anymore, because I know a lot of people whose fathers aren't around and they would give anything to have their dads back. My dad sadly was abusive. And so there was some guilt around that for me. People telling me you should reconnect before it's too late. And so I remember it felt like an hour just for watching him walking through space. That's all he was doing. He just had his head down. He was really dark colored, a shadow was over him, or he was muted. And I was just watching him, and he told me that he wasn't my responsibility. And he was like, I did what I did in life, and I made you to be who you are. Don't try and be me. This is where I am. This is terrible. and so it was really cathartic for me in that way. And then as I kind of encountered him, it was in the middle of this thing where I was experiencing being a rock. I'd essentially died. My body had broken down, and I'd become like a rock that was hit off planet Earth by a meteor, and I just kind of drifted through space and eventually landed on another planet, and microbes came and I became this other life form. And I was like, wow, life is really a process. It's not, one thing and it ends. It's just never ending. Everything that is around us is still here with us. So they were the main two things that I kind of took away from it. And then when I came out of it, the shaman sat next to me and he gave me a bottle of water and he said, "Happy birthday, Dan." Bear in mind, never spoken to him before. On the bottle, the expiry date was May 22nd, which is my birthday. Can't explain it. Cannot explain it. But yeah, like just to give you guys a clue into the experience. The second one, it was just 4 of us, and it was incredible, really special. That's where I met didn't meet, but I went through that experience with my now wife. That was the first time we told each other that we loved each other. And for me, I said it because I could see it. There were connections between her and I that I was like, whoa, like you can measure love. It's right there, and the whole night, all these little kind of like white orbs were coming and sitting on all of our shoulders and stuff like that. And it was really strange, very different experience. No serpents in that one. So they're all different, but there are similar things between, experiences. And there are also, I don't know if you know about this. I've spoken a lot, so I'll shut up soon.
No.
But there is a specific mushroom that they eat in China. And the mushroom is, I'm going to mess this up, L. asiatica. And it has to be cooked properly. Otherwise, people hallucinate tiny people climbing over everything.
Oof. No.
This article says, the patients come with a strikingly odd symptom. Visions of pint-sized elf-like figures marching under doors, crawling up walls, and clinging to furniture. If anyone's seen Common Side Effects, that depicts that pretty well. But that sounds like machine elves, right?
Yeah.
But that's a different substance. So it's almost like there are all these different substances that kind of let us access this other space. And in the research that I kind of read, it looks like there's a kind of effect that these things have on your brain where it shuts down what's called the default mode network, which is responsible for, one foot in front of the other when you're walking, breathing without thinking about it, that kind of stuff. So it just takes that away and stops filtering the world and just shows you what's there. That's the thinking behind it. Is that true? I don't know. Because there's also the other side of this as well, where in the 70s, some people, as LSD was kind of, hitting its moment, a group of scientists went to music festivals and they were administering LSD to people who wanted to have a holy experience. And they found, they found that the only people that had that holy experience were people who thought they were going to have the holy experience. So is this more to do with consciousness and intention? But in that case, then we end up over with the Hellier guys, where they hypnotize someone accidentally into experiencing an alien abduction, right? Like it had all the classic things. This person didn't know, these tropes, yet this experience came out of them. And they were like, wait, did we just make you be abducted?
Right.
And so it's fascinating. It almost seems to be like a realm in consciousness. And I know that sounds crazy. And I know that's like probably 20 years until people will understand that as like a normal thing, and if we can define it. But it seems like that's where it's going, that there's a world of like imagination or intuition or something like that all this stuff occupies.
That is fascinating. Well, thank you for sharing all of that.
Sorry, it was long.
No, it's we appreciate it. Like, I know that's not easy to probably talk about, process, and then, like you said, find proper language to try to describe it. It's such a subjective experience. None of us will never truly understand what you experience. But for you, that was like the synchronicities, the connections that you made. That's for you. That's for nobody else. And that's what I love about the UFO topic. Like every UFO sighting was for you, the witness who saw it, and like what you take from it and how you interpret it. And I find that fascinating. I think this is so cool. I'm going to read this last paragraph here about this story. While some scientists argue these beings are simply hallucinations, like you said, generated by the brain's highly altered state, Gallimore believes the DMT experience may reveal an unexplored dimension of consciousness. Regardless
go.
of whether, regardless of whether the entities are real or psychological constructs, researchers acknowledge that such encounters can produce profound personal and therapeutic insights. And again, I think that's what is most important. My work in the UFO field has always been about the aftermath of a UFO experience, abduction experience, a close encounter. And I don't care. I don't care what it actually was. How did it affect you? How did it change you? How did you integrate that into your life? And was it good or was it bad? Can you find some good in that and move on with your life? So, you know what? End of the day, I think this is awesome that they're at least trying. Will they tap into a realm and find a a solid answer? Probably not, but it's worth exploring. I mean, hell, we're trying every way to try to contact non-human entities. Why not this? And I think I'm going to be honest, man. Like, drugs scare me, and I know that's the most square thing I could possibly
No,
say.
I get it though.
I've never. I smoke weed. I'll go on the record and say that I smoked weed 2 months ago, but it's probably the last time I did it. I'll probably smoke more weed. Like, it's not something I'm against by any stretch. But when it comes to something that past that, I'm just terrified of not what I will experience in another realm in consciousness, but literally how my body will react to it. I'm terrified that I'm gonna like have a heart attack or like have one bad trip and never come back from it. Like, that's my fear. Or that I will understand the universe and it will be too much to comprehend and my head will literally explode. So that's me
It'd be like
personally.
Zaphod Beeblebrox, right? Yeah, you'll have it and you'll be like, wait, I am the center of the universe. And it'll just tell you that.
It's the ultimate main character syndrome, right? Yeah.
And people
I
do
don't-
have
I
that
don't know.
because ayahuasca is a plant medicine. That's what they call it, right? And you're not meant to do it every week. You do it every year or when it calls you. When it comes to you, that's the trick, right? If you go and expecting a party drug, it will kick your ass and you'll have a terrible time. Because you puke, you do. And sometimes it's called purging, and it sometimes happens the other end too. Luckily, not to me, but it can be pretty uncomfortable. But after I puked, I felt great. It was like I'd gotten like a sludge out or something like that. It was just really strange. But also, like, they were asking us, do you take any medications? Because you have to prep in a certain way by not eating meat for 2 weeks and bathing in certain kind of oils and things like that every day for 2 weeks before you do the ceremony. So there are literal body things that can go wrong when you're doing this if you don't respect the process too. So I'd highly recommend, if anyone's interested. I was very lucky; it kind of came to me through friends that I met randomly. But if anyone's interested, there are places you can go and do these things with medical professionals who will sit by your bed and make sure you're safe, and you'll be hooked up to like an EEG and you'll see your heart rate and all that kind of stuff. So if you, Ryan, was someone that was like, I kind of want to try it, but I'm scared, that would probably be the best place to entertain that. But also, you're spot on, because it has an effect on you. So if you don't want to be turned upside down and inside out by something and have that self-examination, if you're happy in your life where you are, carry on. Don't worry about it. If you need it, it'll come to you.
I like that. Let it come to you if it may. Now, would you do something like this retreat? Would you want to be part of this study personally?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And I think, I love Andrew's work because of how he approaches it. And I hadn't read the end of that article when you said about his theory of consciousness. So I'm like,
you
on the
nailed
same
it.
page. Let's go. Let's do it.
Yeah. I know you guys are like consciousness brothers over DMT brothers, I guess. I love it. Well, hey, again, I'm all for any way to try to contact aliens in any magical way. That's where our next story.
Did you see the talent on me to Susan? Someone in the chat here. J. Allen Heineken wrote in the chat. Oh, so they said, Dan Zetterström says if we don't do drugs, we're not cool. That's what they told Suzanne. Stop getting me in trouble with UFO mom.
UFO mom is here.
Be cool, guys.
We're totally not talking about ayahuasca and DMT, Suzanne. we're talking UFOs, the government, yay, portals, yay. Anyways.
Well, before we move on,
Yeah,
I
please.
just want to point out that when Secret Machines came out, hat tip, pun intended, there was an explanation on the front, like fold in, where Peter Lavender explained that it's called Secret Machines, not just because the meaning of secret with a K kind of goes back and means mysterious and unknown, but also they said because these machines seem to secrete from elsewhere. And I've always thought, well, what if they secrete from that conscious realm into ours?
Interesting. I never would have thought that in a million years that's what the title could have meant. I just thought it was like a cool Russian way of saying secret or something. Wow.
No, there's a little clue in it, and it's thought provoking, right? It's like, okay,
It is.
You know, they can't survive here, so Greys as avatars. Yeah, they're avatars, but it's not someone on another planet. It's someone in another realm that says my biology does not function in your realm, so I have to make this to see you.
Machine elves, baby. I love it. I love that.
Curious.
Yeah, I love that. Secret Machines will be coming up a lot tonight, guys. Get ready. Prepare your butts. But Dan, I thought Chris Ramsey was the only magician in the UFO field. Apparently, I was wrong. Because the headline of this story, this could be the headline of the year for somewhere in the live stream. You ready for this one?
Go for it.
Magician fails to stop Louis Theroux from using alien autopsy film.
What a headline.
What a headline, guys. This is where our next story is going. What do you think? Do you follow Louis Theroux's work?
I love Louis Theroux's work.
He's awesome.
It's absolutely incredible. Same as, you know, us, as you said at the beginning of the show. This is about people, and Louis Theroux is great at just saying, look at these people. Life is happening. Isn't that different and strange?
Yep.
And that's
crazy.
Just appreciate the humanity.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, unfortunately, he's kind of in the hot seat in this story because he was recently, him and his production company for his new documentary that he's making, were sued by a magician. Okay, let me read this here. A magician who helped produce the infamous 1995 Alien Autopsy film has told a British court that the footage was entirely fabricated as part of a deliberate psychological experiment. Spiros Mileris, 66, testified that he filmed the black and white footage in April of 1995 inside a Camden flat in North London. The film, which purported to show an autopsy performed on ETs recovered from the 1947 Roswell crash, became a global sensation and was viewed by an estimated 1.2 billion people. Mileris made the claim while attempting to block Louis Theroux, his production company, Mindhouse, from using the footage in their upcoming documentary. However, the High Court dismissed his copyright claim and ordered him to pay £17,000 in legal costs. According to testimony, producer Ray Santilli had originally obtained damaged reels he believed depicted the Roswell incident and later assembled a team, including Spiros and special effects artist John Humphreys, to recreate the footage in 1995. Mileris insisted the film contained no authentic 1947 material and said the hoax was meant to test how easily people could be convinced by fabricated evidence. So, all right, here we go, man. Another lawsuit in the UFO world by a magician about the alien autopsy. Never thought I'd see the day.
That's a headline.
I don't even I want to ask you your thoughts on this, but what is there to say? But please, if you have any thoughts on this story, please let me know.
I'd recommend going and listening to, I think it was Astonishing Legends, where they interviewed this guy Spiros about how they made the movie, and it's really fascinating the way he's talking about how you drive narratives and create impressions for people to take away from it that are false by just adding small things. Really excellent lesson in storytelling. But yeah, what's he talking about? He can't stop Louis just using a clip of it in his documentary, right? It's educational purposes, freedom of use, I guess. and Louis, no doubt, is paying royalties. So that's that, is it not? I'm as much as I'm like, you know what, I love Spurious talking about making that, alien autopsy. This just seems like he's trying to get money when he was just a hired hand for it, as opposed to the guy who owned the right.
Right. And from what I remember, first of all, there's a really funny like mockumentary movie that they made about the alien autopsy, which is based on Ray Santilli, Spiros, John Humphreys, the special effects artist. Like they made a comedy about this. I think Bill Pullman was in it, if my memory
This is
serves me correct.
It's really funny that you're talking about this from like an American way, because the two guys who made it in the UK are huge. You could say Ant and Dec to any single person in the UK and they'll know exactly what you're on about. Outside of the UK, but the Ant and Dec alien autopsy movie in the UK, any UK listeners will know instantly what you're talking about.
Oh, awesome. Okay, I am learning stuff tonight, man. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, yeah, it was great. I watched it, I don't know, 10 years ago. It was fantastic. But I know Spiros even had like a lawsuit going on with Ray Santilli at one point, like trying to do something similar of like who owned the rights to the footage and all of that. And Fox got involved at one, like it was crazy. So I do think, and I'm friends with Spiros on Facebook. So if he happens to be watching this or anything, I have no skin in the game with any of this. I find the alien autopsy it holds a special place in my heart, nostalgic wise. Like I have the VHS of it. I've done a couple episodes on it. I'd love to have Spiros on the show as well. But yeah, this just seems, it just sucks because now the dude's out like 17,000 pounds in legal fees, and all for nothing. So I don't know.
Right.
I don't know.
But
if he truly feels
understand.
it's like he is owed that, fine. Like America is the most litigious place in the world. Everyone sues everyone for sneezing on me.
I'm going to sue you, Ryan, for saying that.
I'm sorry. Wouldn't be the first time. Would not be the first time, dude, that someone tried to sue me. Trust. But yeah. I don't blame him for at least trying, I guess is my point. But
I understand why he's fighting for it. Because, apparently this was made and they made it as an exercise to see if you could hoax something like this. And then the lead guy turned around and said it was genuine and got it entered into the archives as a piece of genuine footage when Spiros knows that nothing in it is genuine. So I understand the battle. I think that's righteous. But yeah, like Louis Theroux is great. He'll present it properly, Right. He'd be all over Spiros's version of that story and telling people the real story behind it.
Hell yeah. I bet he's going to make Spiros look awesome in it too. So
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think so.
I can't wait. I can't wait to see whatever it turns out to be. To see a documentary on this whole ordeal is like, I can't wait to revisit it all for sure. Cool, man. Should we move to our next story, which happens to take place in Argentina? Let me pull this up here.
We're headed to South America.
Heck yeah. Let's go south, baby. Recently, declassified documents from Argentina's Ministry of Foreign Affairs have shed new light on a little-known 1991 incident at the General San Martin base in Antarctica, where both military personnel and civilian researchers reportedly encountered a UFO. According to testimony from retired Argentine Air Force non-commissioned officer Miguel Amaya, the event began during the early hours of April when the station's rheometer, an instrument used to measure disturbances in the ionosphere, began recording impossible readings. Normally, the device's 3 needles register independent measurements at different radio frequencies, but during the event, all 3 moved in identical patterns, something engineers at the base said should not occur under natural conditions. The disturbance persisted for hours, producing such intense readings that the needles repeatedly ran off of the recording paper.
Wow.
Last paragraph here. Roughly 16 hours later, amid a snowstorm, an Argentine army radio operator reportedly witnessed a massive circular light drifting silently above the base before disappearing toward the sea. Amaya later claimed that personnel were instructed by superiors not to discuss the event. The incident remained largely unknown until Argentinian UFO research group Sephora pressed for the release of official records through public information laws. The declassification confirmed that 9 rolls of rheometer data documenting the anomaly still exist and are preserved at the Argentine Antarctic Institute. Investigators argued that the synchronized readings suggest the presence of a powerful external energy source overhead, while researchers hope the newly released files will open the door to further disclosures concerning unexplained phenomena in Antarctica. Sephora is continuing their investigation. Oh man, this is terrifying. Like anything Antarctica based, I can't even say the freaking word. I'm so scared. It scares me, man. Like I pitched a show. To be fully transparent, I pitched a show with Chrissy Newton and a First Nations woman in Canada, where we were going to go to Antarctica and explore very obscure UFO cases. We had 5 or 6 cases that I guarantee you have never been really made public that we were going to go out to investigate. We had some names that people will know in the UFO field connected to this. I had politicians in Canada connected. I had military bases that we were going to visit. Dude, this was like the perfect thing.
I want to watch this show.
Thank you.
I'm guessing it didn't get picked up, but I want to watch it.
It did not get picked up. I have a sizzle. I'll share it with you privately.
Okay.
Cool. Sizzle reel. You know what? Screw it. Maybe I'll put it on the live stream. What are they gonna do? What are they? I guess sue me like Spiros. We'll see. If I'm in a good mood after my DMT trip, I might put it online. But yeah, dude. So I wanted to go there and explore these unknown cases, and this one just came to my attention. So what do you make? What do you make of this story?
Yeah, amazing. And it's in this part of the world that is so remote that if anything was coming here and hid, these are the places it would use. Yeah. You know, we talk about Antarctica with UFO stuff a lot, you know, whether it's just talking about if there is and we know there is now, but we didn't like many decades ago, if there is a landmass underneath that, and what that would have looked like years and years and years ago. And we know now that it would have been lush and green and hot. And, you know, before the thing hit our planet that made the moon, it would have been like the most tropical place on the planet. So life would be there, you know. This is a place that could be a cradle of life. And that's kind of where the thinking goes, that maybe this was the Garden of Eden, you know. I know they say it's Africa now, but, you know, it moves depending on the theories. But then also there's the Nazi connection, that supposedly they had the base down there and they were working down there, and all the Nazis kind of ran to Argentina in their submarines and things like that. The head of the Nazi engineering division, Heinz Kammler, he was caught with all these blueprints for these just incredible craft, and they weren't left behind. You know, it was rats deserting a sinking ship. They were all taking their own stuff and making their own deals, and that's where we got Project Paperclip from, Operation Paperclip, where the US kind of absorbed a lot of them. But yeah, the Admiral Byrd, wasn't it, supposedly went down to the South Pole and took like all this military equipment with him. And then you have this kind of bit of UFO lore that supposedly someone found his diary, translated it, and it says that they encountered these UFOs and they had these massive battles with them over Antarctica. So this is it's a country that has a lot of mystery, or a continent, I should say, that has a lot of mystery attached to it. And that's why I was like, oh my God, what? You going to go there and make the show? Like, that's incredible. It's just waiting for someone to do it.
We tried, man. Like we even had plans to go up to what's that? Dead Horse, I believe it was, where the object was shot down. Was it Dead Horse? Yellowknife? I'm forgetting.
Yes.
It was the one.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah. We were even going to go there because I found someone who said that they allegedly saw the recovery of the object by the military and had video footage of it. And again, like the entire project was squashed and I wasn't able to do it. It was extremely unfortunate, but
oh man,
Dude.
If I win the lottery, I'm going to commission the show from you.
Thank
but
you.
I've got to come with you. That's the only deal.
Hey, you are more than welcome, my friend. Speaking of which, if anyone wants to fund Dan and I's trip, the super chat is still open. I had to, man. The other thing I found interesting about this is the evidence, the rheometer, I believe they called it, that had the spikes on it and whatnot. Like, that is available. You can see that evidence. It's being held at the institute. So, like, there's evidence of something anomalous that happened here as this object went over this area. So, like, people want evidence, there's evidence for you, and we have documentation of it too. So I can't wait to see what Sephora comes up with next with this one.
It almost feels like Beatrice's work, like there's actual hard scientific evidence for you to look at, and the experts are going, we don't know what this is. They're not saying it's aliens, but it's something mysterious, and we all know it's the mystery that we're like, oh my God, just take this seriously and look at it, please.
Such a good point. Oh man. What's up with Beatrice? She's been kind of silent lately, at least in the UFO Twitter sphere. I hope all is good and her work is continuing. She's been doing incredible work. Have you heard from her at all?
Only the response to her paper, when she came out to kind of post the response to her paper, that there was a peer review paper that came out that said, oh, Beatrice got it wrong actually. And then Beatrice wrote her response to that paper, and it turns out that the folk that said she got it wrong, actually they were only looking at like 2% of the data she looked at, and they were doing methods that canceled out anything anomalous. And so it was like, you're kind of defeating the point here, guys, but thanks for trying,
Nasty, noisy negativists, as Stanton Friedman would say. Well, good. I'm glad she's sticking to her guns and can show her work, as they say. So I love that. All right, man. Let's move to some of the latest headlines in the UFO world itself. Eric Burlison is all over the place lately. God bless this man, dude. Like, we have been waiting years at this point for someone to like pursue all of these claims that have been made by people like David Grush, by Matthew, what was his name? Matthew
Brown.
Thank you. That's the problem.
My brain
It's such an
blanked then.
unassuming name. Yeah. Apologies, Matthew. And all these people who have claimed that there are legacy UFO programs, that there are UFOs being stored, being moved, being reverse engineered, blah, blah, blah. And we got news recently that Eric Burlison, representative in the United States, has actually said, okay, I'm going to get approval from the White House and I'm going to go to these locations. Enough talk, enough meeting in skiffs, enough rumor, innuendo, and stories chasing shadows here. I'm going to go to these places and actually, look for this stuff, knock on doors and try to find it. And he was recently on a podcast called the Resilient Podcast, hosted by former Force Recon Marine Chad Robichaw. And he had some interesting updates on visiting locations of the recovered UFOs, and one that was scheduled for the end of the month. I'm going to go ahead and play a quick clip from that, if you don't mind, and thread this needle, because there's been some updates since this interview. But let's go ahead and play this one first. Here we go.
But what is reported is that we have a reverse engineering program that's called the Legacy Program of engineering craft that are of non-human intelligence, and so you can follow that rabbit hole. That's one of the things that I'm trying to track down. I'm have requested from the White House to go to these locations where people report that there's, like, whether it's a research center and they're reverse engineering, or where they've got a vehicle, or where they have bodies. I've requested to be able to go toward these facilities. Now,
you got approval?
The White House has no problem getting, saying yes. I mean, to me, whenever I made that request, they said, sure. Well, now I have to go through all the bureaucratic, channels, and we do have our first site visit scheduled at the end of this month. But yeah.
So all these programs in And all of these sites are under the authority of Secretary Hegseth?
Yes. And within some of these sites, they are the Department of War, but also you may have intelligence agencies that are involved. Some of them you have private companies that are on site, and so that's what I'm specifically trying to get to. That the rumors are that you got, whether it's MITRE or EGG or it could be Northrop Grumman, Lockheed, Raytheon, you name it, that they have at least some components of craft that they're reverse engineering.
All right. So, basically, he's hinting that, yep, we know where these locations are. I got approval from the White House. It's time to go look for these things. And he would say that, we're going to look at one at the end of the month. Now, I was listening to Andy's podcast, that UFO podcast, recently, and he was talking about, okay, this interview was recorded in February. He said end of the month. So that means he might have already gone and visited that location. It's not the end of March he's going. It was the end of February. So either he's been very quiet about having gone, or it didn't happen. The sort of the string of videos I'm going with here, Dan, is kind of like bringing clarity to a lot of this and where we stand with it. The next clip I'm going to show really quick before we start kind of conversing about it is Jeremy Corbell was recently on a podcast, and he had mentioned a location where he thinks that Burlison should go. And I found this pretty interesting. So let me go ahead and play this one for you next, if you don't mind. Let me find it here. All right, here we go.
Luna, under Rep Luna, who's a badass. She's got like Representative Burchett and Burlison doing really high level sophisticated meetings, working with whistleblowers I brought forward. Like they mentioned Matthew Brown. He's a resource for them, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so like David Grush as well.
Yeah.
And they are actively pursuing the leads of trying to get access to where some of the NHI, non-human intelligence made craft are, as well as biologics. Wow. They've been giving locations. I think very famously, Lou Elizondo pointed to Pax River as a location where there was a facility built out for $10 million to hold the non-human intelligence craft. So I'm not saying that, I'm not breaking any rules. And you could say whatever you want about Lou Elizondo. He's a spook. He's not a spook. The information is correct.
Can you pull up Pax River?
Yeah.
UAP.
I've been warned not to like talk about this. Fuck that, man. It's all out in the news.
Okay. So Pax River. This is apparently the place where people like Elizondo and Corbell have said he should probably go. And an article came out from the Liberation Times soon after, where Chris over at the Liberation Times has basically confirmed that the first visit has taken place and that it was, in fact, Pax River. So I'm going to read this quick, Dan, and then I promise we'll converse. Liberation Times understands that Representative Eric Burlison visited Naval Air Station Pax River in Maryland last month on a White House-approved trip. The alleged visit examined claims that materials of advanced non-human origin were earmarked for transfer between Lockheed Martin and billionaire businessman Robert Bigelow more than a decade ago. Two sources told Liberation Times that Burlison visited a hangar that Elizondo has alleged in writing to Congress was built to accommodate the machinery and its transfer to Bigelow. Liberation Times understands that Burlison was able to verify the hangar exists, but that it remains empty. The alleged transfer was blocked by the CIA, the original custodian of the machinery, which is understood to have been recovered since the 1950s. One source told Liberation Times the visit confirmed long-held suspicions that the facility was built for a specific purpose that did not materialize. The source added that Burlison and other officials saw a private runway said to have been built for Bigelow, as well as a crane allegedly intended to support the transfer of materials by air and by river. Liberation Times understands that the findings were reported back to the White House. And Liberation Times is also aware of allegations that UAP-related materials, including an exotic vehicle of unknown origin, may be stored at the U.S. base Pax River. These materials are understood to be stored within different facilities within Pax River. Whew, okay. So a lot to break down there, man. Apparently the first meeting or going to one of these places has taken place. What do you think? What do you make of all of this? And where do we go next from here with Eric Burlison on this one-man crusade, I guess? Oh, muted.
Again, it keeps getting me.
Polite bastard.
I love that he's chasing this. And he even went down to see the Nazca mummies and stuff. And I know he got a lot of stick for it. I probably gave him a little bit. But I understand it. You got to look at everything, right? This is why when Bigelow back collecting his data for the database, he was weekly news, aliens ate my baby, you know, that kind of stuff. Because that's the data we've got, because they won't give us any other data. Very frustrating. But yeah, the facility was supposedly made for Bigelow, for that transfer that never materialized. So I wouldn't expect any materials to be in that hangar. The hangar existing is enough to tick that as a truth told. A few years back as well, I got to read the Bigelow reports, and in that, they identified the site for the hangar, and they said how much it would cost, and they said what would be in there, and it matches with what has been found that you just read out. So they're telling the truth. This is, you know, it was meant to be a river transfer to bring whatever was kind of come in to put into this facility. The facility was made to SAP standards, which just means that super secretive, super private, probably lead-lined walls, you know, that kind of stuff. But there was also, and I find it curious that this wasn't mentioned by Burlison, but in the paperwork I saw, there were underground portions of this facility they were building for this material transfer. And, you know, Burlison didn't mention any underground areas and stuff like that. So, you know, if you had a UFO, are you just putting it in a hangar above ground, or are you going to have the hangar as a decoy?
Thank you. Thank you. Two points that I want to play off with you there. Who was it in the chat here? Amanda made a really good point. I wish Burlison wasn't literally warning all the black programs prior to him getting into these locations. Yeah, he's got to stop. Like, this is a, you know, fly by night, surprise them sort of situation, catch them off guard. When he's going on podcasts and saying, yeah, I'm heading to this location, we're going to that. I appreciate and respect the transparency, but dude, you are giving these people a heads up. They're gonna move that shit quicker than you can like blink an eye. And even in the Liberation Times, they said they're moving parts to all different places. So even if he went to one facility at Pax River, it might be, you know, just to the left. It might be in the oven, in the cafeteria, in the mess hall or something, you know? It's like,
and how does he know what he's looking for too? Right. Like maybe there's a tiny rock in the middle of that hangar that is the most incredible thing, and it's an intelligent rock and it talks to you when you get in it, but he didn't see it because he just walks in and went, nothing here. There's a crane. I'm leaving.
Yeah. Maybe it was the crane itself. Yeah. Good point.
The crane was the alien.
They always say, you know, it's UFO researcher Mac Maloney used to talk to him a lot, and he's done a lot of research into what is Area 52, what is the next place where these things would be stored. And you know, I came up with all these theories. Is like, you would think that, but no, it would be, you know, in the basement of the Strand used bookstore in the middle of frickin' Manhattan. It would be hiding in plain sight, you know, like the Men in Black headquarters or something like that.
Right.
It's not
and I
gonna
know
be...
yesterday I sent you we were talking about where's this buried UFO, and we found out that it's in America, and I was just like, wait, the Men in Black movie, was it telling us?
Yeah, that was the clue all along. No one followed. But yeah, man, hiding in plain sight. Look, I respect the hell out of Burlison for continuing to pursue this. Thank God one of them is doing this, actually, like, you know, taking what people like Grush and Matthew Brown and the others have said and is putting it into motion and trying to get us answers. But my man's got to learn some more, sneaky ways of doing this. Yeah.
Yeah, his spy tradecraft is weak.
Yeah, dude.
Well, maybe it's not weak, but it's prioritized less than the transparency on podcasts thing. So maybe switch those up. He can just say, we're going somewhere and we're not going to tell you. And that's it.
Use a
something
decoy,
else.
man. Use a decoy.
Right.
Tell us go on these podcasts and say, yep, I'm going to whatever, Dugway Proving Ground. And meanwhile, you're going to this other place that actually is rumored to have this stuff.
Right.
So,
Try and figure out where they're going to transfer it to and go to the place they're transferring. If you're telling them you go into the hangar where they already have it.
Yeah.
Something else I wanted to mention as well is there was an article a few years ago where Tim McMillan was talking about like different UFO rumors. And there was a line in there where he said he spoke to someone about the material from Roswell that would let you see whatever you thought you wanted to see. But in the article, he says some people saw a piece of material. Other people saw a glorious, hundreds of year old ship going through the water in a storm. And I'm like, what is this technology? Like, is the hangar a projection of the UFO in the first place? Like, I don't know what we're looking for.
Weird. Oh, that's trippy, man. I love that. Well, so like going to the UFO stored materials is one thing, but Burlison's also trying to find the massive UFO with a building built over it. This guy's like all over the news, man. When it's coming, I love it. I love it. He recently did a Reddit AMA with Leslie Kane and James Fox. This dropped in the last 48 hours, I believe. And apparently, he talked a little bit more about one of these locations, and I found this pretty interesting. Do you mind if I play this clip quick?
Please go ahead.
All right. Burlison. Okay, here we go.
Are UFOs low lecture 1110? Mr. Burlison, may we have an update on your efforts to visit the overseas facility that is allegedly built over a UFO that is too big to move? And are there other facilities built over UFOs inside the United States or elsewhere on Earth?
I am working to try to make that happen. That's not going to be easy. It's going to, anytime you kind of leave the country on official business, you have to get approval. It has to go through a bunch of stuff. It's so much easier to stay in the CONUS. So it's going to be, I'm going to have to try to figure out how to make it happen. And what I have been told is that the facility that is often cited that people on the internet that people think is the one is not it. That's not the facility.
I think what people think it's in South Korea, I believe. Just because I'm just saying that because I think it's out there on the internet, or at least one of them. I don't know.
Yeah, that is the narrative on the internet, and what I've been told is that's not the location.
Okay, interesting.
I obviously don't expect you to reveal it, but do you know the location so you could go if you got permission?
Yes.
Okay. I don't think I've had a chance to ask you about all of this, Dan. When it comes to the massive UFO with the building built over it. What do you make of all of this? It first came to light through Stephen Greer, then Ross Coulthart. Now Burlison's chasing after this. South Korea has been mentioned. Other places in the U.S. I believe Greer mentioned one in, was it Oklahoma? I believe.
I think it was, yeah.
Somewhere in that vicinity. What do you think? What do you think about what he just said here?
So that I've got to say that that's the most politician-like I've seen Burlison be on anything.
Yeah.
Like he's trying to thread the needle there like crazy without giving an answer.
Yeah.
This is why he's a politician, right? A few little frustrating things he said to me. He said like, "We'll figure out how to make that happen." Dude, stop waiting for permission. Just go. This is what we were just getting at, right? Like, stop pouring in the official paperwork and saying like, "Oh, I've applied to visit this place. Please don't move the stuff that I want to see or prepare a visit." It's like, I used to work in a fast food place when I was a teenager, and we had mystery shoppers would come in and score us. And we were always told. So the day that the person would come in to score us, we would just be on our best behavior. And we would like hire house, right? And then they're not getting a good impression of what we're doing and what they need to change and stuff. And it just, it breaks down. So I would say to him, just go, like, be the like James Bondy government insider here and just get it done. Don't wait for permission. In terms of where it could be, I mean, I don't think people who haven't gone coast to coast across America, I don't think people realize how big it is. They could have it on top of the desert, just open, plain as day, not hiding it. And there are places where you could do that and no one would be able to see. And, there wouldn't be a soul for like 10 hours of driving, So there are just so many facilities where this thing could be. And the Korea one, I was intrigued by it, but I was like, it's circular. There are some assumptions we're making here. The facility doesn't have to be the same shape as the UFO. If you think the UFO is circular, it could be buried under a square building or a triangular building, and there are all these enormous like Lockheed facilities where they build weapons and planes and stuff like that here, and they run for miles. There's one that's 8 miles long. Why not there? I think people are trying too hard, but that try too hard kind of gets me guessing places like the Hoover Dam, where it has stars imprinted over the top of it, and it's commemorating the day that it was opened. But people always go, "But why stars?" It's like, well, if there's something under there, that could be an interesting connection. Or something like the Seattle Space Needle, something in plain sight like that. But yeah, I just think it's going to be somewhere unexpected. Like we said earlier, right? In a basement, buried somewhere that you don't even know what it is. The people on top of it probably don't even know it's underneath them and stuff like that.
Yeah. Arby's Roast Beef Restaurant, 42nd Street, Port Authority, Manhattan. Go there, guys. Food's great. Stay for the UFO. Built in the
if that was real information, all of us would just be like, ha ha ha, Ryan, you're so funny, we're not going there. And you're like, I just told you.
And Ryan was never heard from again. Yeah, man. Hey, again, I think kudos to Burlison for being transparent going on these shows, but dude, just like, man, loose lips sink ships, and we don't want him to sink. We want him to succeed, and this is not the way to go about it. Just say you're going on vacation, man. You're going to look at the Hoover Dam. You're going to Disneyland with your family, and then go to these locations and go through the back door. Don't be knocking on the front door looking for this stuff. So, yeah. Okay. Let's move to our final two stories of the night, man. I've been keeping you much longer than I anticipated. Are you good? Are you good for time?
I am good. I have a little dog right in front of me. He's just changed positions because he was uncomfortable. I thought he might need to pee, but he didn't. So we are good to go.
Okay. If that changes, you let me know. I've had many dogs.
I will.
I don't want him suffering.
Do people want to see dog?
Please.
I know.
Oh my God, that is adorable.
Lamb
if you're
Chop.
just listening to this, Lamb Chop is resting. Oh, hi, Lamb Chop. Usually, Lamb Chop's like, what? What do you want?
You're a YouTube star, Lamb Chop.
Everyone say hi to Lamb Chop.
He doesn't know what YouTube is. I try and tell him. I'm like,
Someday. Oh, dude, your dog's gonna go viral. I love it.
Lamb Chop is amazing.
Thank you for sharing Lamb Chop with us. I do appreciate that. What does Lamb Chop think about AARO? Does Lamb Chop have any specific thoughts on AARO?
Well, I asked him, I said, hey, Lamb Chop, what do you think of their work? And he looked at me and just went, rough.
Perfect.
It's a terrible joke for you.
I love it. Hey, Dad Bod Pod would love it. That's a dad joke right there. That's a dad joke right there, man. This is our next story. As I go through puberty for the millionth time. AARO hosted a private workshop with civilian researchers, universities, and government agencies. This story comes to us from Chrissy Newton at the Debrief. The Pentagon's AARO has unveiled plans to overhaul how UAP reports are collected, analyzed, and shared, signaling a potential shift towards greater transparency and collaboration with civilian researchers. The initiative stems from an August 2025 workshop near Washington, D.C., organized with the research nonprofit Associated Universities, Inc. Unlike traditional conferences centered on presenting findings, the meeting focused on building the infrastructure for studying UAP. I'll continue here. A central theme of the workshop was the creation of a collaborative data ecosystem that blends human expertise with artificial intelligence while maintaining strict privacy protections. Attendees recommended AI-assisted tools for transcription, clustering, and large-scale pattern recognition, but stressed that human oversight is essential to prevent bias or the amplification of hoaxes. Under current director John T. Kozlowski, AARO appears to be moving away from the more guarded posture of its early years under Darth Vader, Sean Kirkpatrick. Did I write that? Suzanne wrote that. I apologize. Signaling a new effort to engage scientists, academics, and independent investigators in building a long-term community of practice aimed at improving the quality, rigor, and understanding of UAP reports. So it seems, Dan, that AARO is now working with the public. It seems. I want to stress that because I don't know. I don't know what to make of this. A private workshop with institutions and places collecting data, gathering data, doing the work for AARO, basically, is how I'm kind of looking at this as well. I mean, you go to the comments on Twitter anytime AARO tweets, and it's just ratioed beyond comprehension of negative responses of how non-transparent they are when it comes to everything they're doing. So, what do you think? What do you think of this endeavor that John Kozlowski has kind of set into motion with AARO, quote unquote, working with the public now?
In a way, part of my brain is like, okay, that's good. They're gathering more data from the public, so the data isn't going to be biased towards military sites anymore, and just the US as well. We'll start, seeing public reports from all over the world. But the other side of me says, I know what happens when the government just gets to pull data off individuals and use it for whatever they want. I think it's really dangerous. It sets a bad precedent for privacy. But at the same time, I don't know how they gather that data without doing this. So, my principle is against it, but they need the data. It doesn't help that I don't trust AARO. AARO seems to be, you have Kozlowski or Kirkpatrick kind of running it, but then you have these independent groups that tell AARO how to appraise sightings and things like that. And those are all invisible to us. They're all faceless. They won't release those names. So without that transparency, I still do not trust them. It was a good thing, I think, that, and I think this was Burlison again, he said that the team that are working to do what Trump directed them to do, which is release all these files, they're working with AARO, not for AARO. So they'll take AARO's data, but they're not led by AARO. And I think that's a positive thing. They have been around, they have done work. But as you say, Kozlowski seems to be opening up a little more about the actual anomalous stuff. So I don't know, maybe they're having this secret mystery shopper and they're trying to make it look like they're doing their job properly while they're being looked at.
Good point. Very good point. Another point I want to stress is, this is great and all that they're putting efforts behind this, I guess, in terms of possible transparency. However, dude, we still haven't gotten the second part of the UAP historical review, nor have we gotten the annual report for 2025 last year that is mandated by Congress that AARO present to the public. We have gotten neither of these things yet.
That's the law as well, right? So they're breaking the law by not releasing these reports. I think
Literally
it's clear
breaking
that
the law.
someone's told them, don't do it, or no, you're in a changeover, you can push it off. But Kirkpatrick, he was asked by Douglas Dean Johnson something this week about, the Air Force and Yankee Blue hazing being to blame for a bunch of UFO sightings. And, he's replying with like these long paragraphs within 2 minutes. And I'm like, where's the report, man? Like, you're putting so much time into these really menial things that have no impact. Where's your report? And he says that he handed in what he had, and the report, volume 2, would have corrections to volume 1. So maybe the amount of corrections to volume 1 that has to happen just means they have to start over entirely. I don't know, but that would be nice, because that was a piece of crap, right?
Yeah. I did read those responses that Dean Johnson was able to get from Kirkpatrick. It was interesting. He kind of said, like, not my job, not my prob. Like, I'm done.
Right.
I'm out. Like, I handed in my shit. It's up to this guy to take care of it from there. It's like when in the United States, when a new administration comes in, they have to clean up all the messes from the previous one. So I do think there's a lot of course correction going on. And you could be right. There could be an extraordinary amount of things that needed to be corrected in the historical report. However, when it comes to the annual report of like what AARO's been looking at, I don't personally see an excuse for that not having come out yet. So, like, do these public facing sort of endeavors, all you want. But at the end of the day, like, you were mandated by Congress to do this and you're not doing it. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm holding their feet to the fire there. I just want to give a special shout out, Dan, for a second, if you don't mind, to my good buddy Andrew Berger. AARO's just so bad at doing anything. Andrew is a filmmaker, and we just premiered a short sci-fi horror film of his right here on the YouTube channel. It's called Rabbits. You can look for it right here on the channel. And it is a short film about a UFO whistleblower. Really good film.
Ooh.
I highly suggest people go back a few videos here right on the channel, and you can watch the short film. It's like 7, 8, 9 minutes long at the most, but good Lord, did Andrew knock it out of the park. It's kind of inspired by a lot of things like Richard Doty and the current whistleblower situation going on, with a nice sci-fi horror mix in there as well. So a special hello to Andrew. You can find a link to his YouTube channel in the Rabbits video. So go back and watch that. Subscribe to his channel, check out his other short films. But I was so honored that he let us drop it right here on our channel as well. So again, special shout out to Andrew. Yeah.
I'm gonna watch that right after we finish. I love sci-fi, I love horror, and excuse the pun, but Andrew, I love burgers too. So I'm gonna go watch that.
I'm sure he gets that all the time. I love it.
Probably, yeah.
All right, man. Speaking of rabbits, nope, I totally messed up that transition. Dude, I'm sorry. It's the vino. It's the vino. It's getting to me. Let's get to our last story of the night. Now this is kind of serious one, so I don't want to make light of this too much. This is about the missing Air Force general, General Neil McCaslin. Now I'm sure you guys have been following the news about this all over the place. But Neil McCaslin is a retired U.S. Air Force Major General, and he has been reported missing in Albuquerque, New Mexico, prompting a multi-agency search involving local authorities, the FBI, in New Mexico search and rescue. Now, Dan, I'm going to play a quick video here of a local news segment because they kind of give a bit more specifics before we kind of go down the rabbit hole here. There, I found some sort of connection there. But let's go ahead and watch this clip here and shed some more light on this story.
Used for a missing retired Air Force general who disappeared from an Albuquerque neighborhood last week. Now we've learned federal investigators are helping in that search. News 13's Melissa Torres is live in the Newsplex after seeing crews knocking on doors today. Melissa?
That's right. William Neal McCaslin was last seen near his Foothills area home on Friday near Tramway and Academy. Today, volunteers along with investigators from BCSO and the FBI were canvassing the neighborhood.
We walked right by there Friday morning, would have been around 11 o'clock, and nothing out of the ordinary in the area, so it's strange.
McCaslin, who's 68, retired in 2013 after a long career in the Air Force, including as the commander for the Air Force Research Lab at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio and leading the Phillips Research Site at Kirtland in Albuquerque. BCSO is leading the investigation into his disappearance after issuing a silver alert on Friday. BCSO, Kirtland Air Force Base, and the FBI are all working together to expand their outreach. So far, investigators have only said they're concerned for McCaslin's safety because of medical reasons. Today, we saw around a dozen people knocking on doors, interviewing neighbors as part of a coordinated search alongside the FBI. Several neighbors told us off camera they'd regularly see McCaslin walking in the area.
It's unusual, and it's not, it's unsettling that something would happen to someone.
BCSO is asking neighbors and nearby businesses to see if they have any security or even doorbell camera footage from Friday between 9 in the morning and 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Kirtland Air Force Base is also assisting in the investigation. Back to you.
All right. Thank you, Melissa. BCSO says anyone who sees McCaslin should call 911.
Okay. So, Dan, the reason that this story is kind of going viral in the UFO community is probably self-evident to many watching this, but let's kind of clarify this for people why General McCaslin is such a well-known name in the UFO field. So his disappearance has attracted unusual public attention because Wright-Patterson and related research programs have long been associated with speculation about UFO research and classified aerospace technology. McCaslin's name has also surfaced in 2016 WikiLeaks emails involving UFO disclosure discussions linked to musician Tom DeLonge. Though any official involvement in ET research has never been confirmed, for now, investigators emphasize that the case is being treated strictly as a missing person search, while authorities continue to appeal for tips that could help locate the retired general. So, first and foremost, we're going to put links to the phone numbers you guys should call if you have any information. Obviously, this is a very concerning thing, especially for his friends and family and coworkers. But it's also super mysterious, man, because this is the general that for so long was mythologized and rumored to be the one that kind of set everything into motion with Tom DeLonge to the stars, Elizondo, everything since 2017, the New York Times article. This guy has been the one at the tippy top of all of it, and now he's missing. So this is why the UFO community has kind of connected all of this and why conspiracy theories are running rampant. But yeah, things were made even weirder recently when his wife responded about some of these things. But before I get to that response, what do you make of this story first and foremost?
So first and foremost, I think it's tragic. I'm worried for another human being. I want him to get home safe. I want his family to know that he's safe. It's been over 7 days. I'm worried the worst has happened. And it's just awful. It's an awful thing for anyone to go through not knowing. I really hope they surprise themselves and find him. So early on, it was reported that he had dementia, early onset dementia. And then it came out that he didn't at all. And they're saying, his wife is saying he didn't. So I want to know where that came from. Because that's really, that's something that I put a red flag in as that's really suspicious. Sounds like a made-up story is being put out there to cover this up. Also, I just wanted to refer to, and this is kind of like the thing in the books. This guy supposedly was on a team of people, or set up a team of people to advise Tom DeLonge for To the Stars Academy of Arts and Science, to advise him on the books, on the films he was making, so they could be accurate to the phenomena. In the WikiLeaks emails, Tom does say that McCasland, he's like linking John Podesta and McCasland together for a meeting. And he says that McCasland will say he's a skeptic, but Tom knows otherwise. So it seems that this guy is just on paper saying, nope, don't believe it, but then saying something else behind closed doors. The thing that he is most cited for in the book is this little kind of preamble before the books begin. And Tom goes to meet a general in a diner, and the general says this, and this general is supposedly William McCasland. He says, "It was the Cold War, and every single day we lived under the threat of nuclear war. Every single day we believed and really thought in the deepest part of our soul, nuclear war could happen at any given moment." And then the general stops and he says, "And somewhere in those years," and he looks me, here being Tom, he looks me in the eye and says, "We found a life form, and everything that we did and every decision that we made with that life form was because of the consciousness at that time." So that's supposedly what McCasland told Tom about this, that they found a life form during the Cold War. McCasland would have been the guy in charge of Wright-Patterson Air Base as well, the science and technology divisions. He would have been in charge there. So anything mysterious that was back engineered, he would have been the guy to be in the know about that. And then saying something like that, it's provocative, right? But his wife kind of tried to downplay it in her message. She said that he was just giving To the Stars an air of credibility. And sure, but also he didn't do anything publicly with To the Stars. His name was never revealed by To the Stars. It was revealed in a WikiLeaks leak. So it doesn't seem like he's even supporting To the Stars in any capacity aside from just giving Tom notes under the table. And then when WikiLeaks happened, Tom says that the faucet from this group that was assembled to advise him was turned off. They were his words. The faucet was turned off. So McCasland and all the people that said, "We'll advise you on this, Tom, tell the world that UFOs are real," so on and so forth, they all ran and cut ties with Tom DeLonge when the world found out that they were helping him. And then we skip forward to this, and we see that the week that Trump said, "Okay, all the UFO files have to come out, we're going to tell you the truth," this guy has now gone missing. So the theory is that either, it's just a human tragedy, that he could have been got by the back program, because as he's moving into old age, he might think that he's not meant to, and didn't even know that he was helping Tom with this stuff. Or, hey, maybe he's gone to do another 20 and back, right? The old Corey Good narrative that you're going into a secret program, and that's where you live now, and everyone else outside of it thinks you're dead. So maybe he's being absorbed proper. I don't know. But like I say, first and foremost, it's tragic. I hope he's okay.
Yes, yeah. Let's definitely make that clear. No matter what, that this is a tragedy that someone's missing and possibly, will never be found. However, you bring up a good point. His wife. Now, Tom can say these things that it was McCasland. The WikiLeaks emails basically proved it. There could still be ways to kind of work around that and, disprove that, discredit that, say, no, that's not true. However, this was really weird what his wife said. I do want to read this because it's just weird. I'm going to read it really quick. If you're watching this on YouTube, we got it up on the screen here. This comes from Susan McCasland, his wife, on her Facebook. She said, "It is true that Neil had a brief association with the UFO community through Tom DeLonge, former frontman of Blink-182 and founder of the organization To the Stars. Neil worked with Tom for a bit shortly after his Air Force retirement as an unpaid consultant on military and technical scientific matters to lend verisimilitude to Tom's fiction book and media activities. After the Russians hacked John Podesta's emails, there was less contact with Tom and the community pushing for release of UFO information. This connection is not a reason for someone to abduct Neil. Neil does not have any special knowledge about the ET bodies and debris from the Roswell crash stored at Wright Pat. Though at this point, with absolutely no sign of him, maybe the best hypothesis is that aliens beamed him up to the mothership. However, no sightings of a mothership hovering above the Sandia Mountains have been reported. Okay.
Did she just make a joke?
Dude, I don't get this. Now, a lot of people pointed this out, and I pointed this out. Everyone's saying this is a very, very strange thing for the wife of someone to be saying while her husband is still missing, to say maybe he was abducted by aliens. However, to play devil's advocate, like, we're not going through this. Our loved one is not missing, has not been missing for a week. Maybe humor is a way she's coping with the stress and the trauma of what is going on. None of us can speak to this except for her. I did find it very odd in this very, normal, grounded sort of statements that she made. Like, no, my husband was not suffering from dementia or anything, dispelling a lot of rumors that were out there. The fact that she spent most of that statement talking about this, I just found very odd. And that the joke about her husband having been abducted by aliens was even weirder. So what do you think?
Just really strange. Like, I understand the human thing, like you said. And so, the joke isn't my main concern. People deal with stress and grief in all sorts of ways. I know I make jokes at funerals and not everyone's okay, so we just deal with things in different ways, and that's it. But she's very confident that he doesn't know anything about this UFO stuff, when realistically she wouldn't even know what he worked on, because all of his stuff was so highly classified, unless she was also in it, and then she'd just be towing the company line saying, no, we didn't do anything. It looks like she might have a career in the service too, so maybe she's in on it. I don't know. It could just be she's confident and wrong. But there's also this downplaying of the to the stars connection, which is just odd considering it was proven. Like, it's not WikiLeaks and the emails that came out of WikiLeaks connecting Tom to John Podesta to Hillary Clinton to Neil McCaslin. These are not a narrative or a book that was being sold by anyone. They were private emails where they were talking in a way that they thought no one would ever see them. And they are absolutely connected. And McCaslin is absolutely informing Tom. Tom even says that, he reached out and made a bunch of, an advisory panel for Tom to ask UFO questions to. So how can we say that he's just offering verisimilitude by going, look, I have badges, when he's not appearing on camera for TTS at all? He's never done anything aside from that little statement I read. Everything else is behind the scenes. So it doesn't match what his wife is saying there, which is sus. But also, like you pointed out, she says that he didn't have dementia. You'd expect if this was like a cover-up statement from someone on the inside, that she would propagate that and say, there were things kind of starting to happen and we suspected and maybe it's got really bad. But she doesn't. So, once again, in UFO world, we have more information and 1,000 more questions.
Exactly. Too many questions. Again, end of the day, I hope he is found. I hope everything is okay. Or I just hope for a resolution, for his sake, for his wife's sake, for everyone's sake. This is never a good thing, and we can theorize all we want about UFO connections to it all, but sending thoughts to his family and all that. Again, we'll put links and information where you can reach out to 911 and local law authorities if you have any information, for sure. But I want to switch gears here, Dan, because there is a weird connection to all of this when it comes to Tom DeLonge. I was going to cover the Ross Coulthart portal story. We'll save that for another time. That is a developing story. Apparently, Ross Coulthart found a portal. So there's that. Welcome to ufology. But I want to wrap things up with you tonight with this baby, secret machine.
Nice.
Now
And we almost glanced against it
we
already.
did.
So yeah.
We did. Yeah. Secrete machines, apparently.
Yeah.
Yes. Things I'm learning tonight. So Patrick over at Vetted came out with a video recently about a lost documentary that Tom DeLonge had been working on. I was a little confused as to what Patrick was kind of trying to convey with the video in terms of it being a documentary and what he showed, because it was not actually what the documentary was. But there was a trailer that came out for the documentary. I remember when it came out, it was kind of dropped very subtly. And dude, my jaw hit the ground. I could not wait. I was ready to go to see the Secret Machines documentary. It never came to be. It never came to be. But recently, Hillary Clinton, of all people, had her deposition for the whole Epstein file thing with Congress. And lo and behold, she was asked about UFOs. So do you mind if I play that clip really quick and how this all could somehow relate
let's
to
do it.
Secret Machines, and Tom DeLonge, and all of that?
Let's
Let's go ahead and
build
watch
our
this.
crescendo.
Let's do it. Let's do it, man. We're at the 11 o'clock hour. Blink 182 is about to play their ending number for the night. But let's go ahead and watch the deposition of Hillary Clinton talking about UFOs. This is crazy. Again, 2026 is batshit, dude. All right, here we go. Here we go.
Is 4:17 in the afternoon. Mr. Burlison has a few questions for you.
So I'm going to begin with some lighthearted, different questions, and you're welcome to ignore them or if you want to. But while I have you here, I just have to ask. So when your husband was president, it was Lawrence Rockefeller had an effort to try to disclose UFOs, UAPs. When you were running for president, John Podesta publicly stated that you would disclose these files if given the chance, if you had been president. Are you pleased to see that these files may be disclosed finally?
I am pleased. As I say, I think they have to be carefully scrutinized so that no national security information is disclosed. But this is an issue of real importance to so many people, and I think whatever can be disclosed should be disclosed.
Was there a program that specifically that was referencing that you were aware of?
I was not. As you mentioned, John Podesta, who was one of my advisors, was deeply interested in the issue, and if I had been elected, I certainly would have listened to his advice.
Well, thank you for indulgence on that.
Could you imagine, dude, for hours being in the hot seat, talking about the Epstein files, your husband, and all that buffoonery and things going on, and then this is dropped in your lap? I can't even imagine. But what did you make of her response to those questions and the connections with Podesta and all of that?
It's a very telling response because Podesta was gung-ho. And back in this era as well, we're talking 2015, 2016, before the New York Times article, there were kind of rumblings that Hillary was being set up to be the disclosure president. And there we hear her say that she was going to follow John Podesta's lead. John Podesta was actively in conversations with Tom DeLonge and William McCasland, saying that they're going to reveal stuff to us. So Hillary was really close to what Tom was doing. And then obviously the wheels came off when she lost the election and it didn't move forward. But she'd been meeting, and I think this was maybe a year or two before even that, she was photographed meeting one of the Rockefellers, that's big generational money, carrying like this really well-known UFO book, really thick thing. I can't remember what it was, but it was like a report on flying saucers, very kind of dry book, but all kind of military witnesses. And so, yeah, she'd been looking into this for a while. She's kind of downplaying her knowledge there because we know, like, she had the book, she had the meme of Rockefeller. Like, she's talking to people that would be in a pretty decent position to know historically if this is real or not. Then, yeah, her right-hand man saying, yeah, we're going to disclose. The guy he's talking to is saying, yeah, we're going to disclose. I'm setting up this entertainment company to do it. And then, yeah, now she's saying she would have followed his lead. So it sure sounds like they were going to disclose. And the funny thing is Tom DeLonge documentary that was coming out, it was being advised by McCaslin and the board of advisors he'd set up, and Podesta was also involved. They send the Secret Machines book to each other in the WikiLeaks file. So if you want to read it and you don't want to buy it, you can just go find it there. If you just search Secret Machines, WikiLeaks, it's right there. You can just read the ebook. But yeah, he was making this documentary around that time. And the documentary went on to morph into Unidentified, an investigation into America's UFO investigation. That's the wrong title. It doesn't say investigate twice.
But you were close enough.
No, I think it's close. But yeah, it kind of morphed into a different thing. And the trailer kind of came out around the same time as WikiLeaks. It wasn't meant to be out. People just kind of got a copy of it. It's hard to find online. The documentary was never made, like I say, but many years ago, I snagged it and I kept it and it's in my archive. So when I saw Vetted pushing that disinformation or misinformation, I should say, to people, I quickly responded and said, this is the real deal. Just, a short documentary trailer, not a documentary. But, and I know you're going to play it in a second, I want your listeners to really pay attention to what's different from Unidentified here, to what's different from the modern day UFO conversation when you watch this. Because personally, I think it would have been better than Age of Disclosure.
Wow. Okay, let's go ahead and watch this unearthed trailer that Dan snagged. And then, yeah, I want to hear the what ifs. What could have been when it comes to all of this. This is really fascinating to me. Okay, here we go. Here is the Secret Machines documentary trailer.
Early this year, I set out to do something pretty challenging. I wanted to shift perception on an extraordinary topic that had already over 70 years of research, opinion, and frankly, quite effective disinformation. I had the rare opportunity to present my ideas to an executive with the Department of Defense who worked in special access programs in an area called Watertown, also known as Area 51. That meeting led to multiple clandestine encounters across the United States, from desert airports to vacant buildings deep within Washington, D.C. From these exchanges, I learned three things. One, there are certain things that should never have been secret. Two, there are secrets that were justifiable at the time but should now be disclosed. And three, there are things that are so terrifying and unimaginable that certain interests believe that they should never, ever be made public. After this, you might even agree.
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
The Pentagon has special access programs deep in the bowels of the Pentagon bureaucracy. Little sunlight emanates from there.
We face a hostile ideology.
He who controls the heavens controls what happens on Earth.
Global in scope.
Space is exploration. It's the big questions in life. It's where the humans fit in this whole scheme.
Atheistic in character.
There's nothing inherent to democracy that precludes a continuous state of roboticized warfare.
Ruthless in purpose and insidious in method.
The United States military announced that it was actually going to open a space warfare center.
The danger it poses promises to be of indefinite duration.
Well, it's also an anthropocentric era to think billions of planets in our own galaxy that it's not full of life.
You have to start by knowing what's the right question.
I haven't had an experience of a UFO.
What's going on at this facility?
I haven't seen quantum particles. I know they exist because the evidence is there.
Nothing about alien life that has a need for competitive advantage, so it's immoral to classify it.
The Pentagon has a $600 billion budget. It's hard to keep track of everything.
You get into conflicts with people's belief system.
The more autonomous drones kind of disturbing, and yet we keep going down that pathway.
The timelines for secrecy are also shrinking. There's no way to keep something secret forever.
It's time to take this seriously.
Do you believe
people have a right to know.
I don't think the public could handle it. I really don't.
Ooh, man.
What a
feel like
what a trailer, right?
yeah, that was
Gives me chills
fantastic.
every time.
Yeah. I remember exactly where I was when I saw that thing online so many years ago. I was in the bowels of the Imperial Theater in New York City, just about to go to work. I was about to go bartend at a Broadway show, Les Miserables, and this thing dropped online, and I watched it, and my jaw hit the floor, and I'm like, really? I have to go serve $15 Coors Light beers to people right now before a Broadway show, and this is happening in the world? Yeah, dude. And then it, it morphed into what it became, which is the television show and whatnot. But so I'm interested to hear what you think we should have been listening to in that trailer, and why you think things may have changed and evolved from what this is originally was intended to be.
Yeah, you can see, I think, from just the style of the trailer there. Tom was making this for Vice. They do these hard-hitting journalistic investigations, and the documentaries are great. I'd really recommend Hamilton's Pharmacopoeia. That started there as well. That touches on one of the other stories that we talked about tonight, the DMT stuff. But yeah, they don't mess around. Like everything's fact check. They just kind of get it out. They say it like it is. There's no kind of politicianing about it. Being vague, trying to kind of imply things rather than say things. And in there, we've got Podesta being interviewed. He just doesn't show up these days, really, when he was truly about to advise a disclosure president. So I want to see him in more stuff. But there he is. Tom had an interview with him. And when I first saw it, I remember thinking he's going to have an interview with the general, right? Like that told that Cold War story. And then right at the end there, you kind of get that silhouetted interview. And I'm like, I think Tom recorded with all of these advisors, and on tape somewhere are all of these advisors just saying it outright, just telling it like it is. We're not alone. That kind of stuff.
I didn't even think about that. Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy to think what's on Tom's hard drive, right? But also Tom being Tom, like being a Blink fan, I've heard all the stories over the years of Tom doesn't like have social graces. There's a story where he wanted M. Night Shyamalan to direct the video for I Miss You. And it almost happened because they were in a restaurant, they saw M. Night Shyamalan, and Tom was like, I'm going to go ask him. And the bass player was like, don't, just leave him have his dinner. And Tom was like, no. And he went over and he made friends with him. And he was like, I'd love to direct the video. And it ended up not coming off, but Tom just doesn't have the social graces, very, very ADHD, just kind of goes into something like, say, like a bull in the china shop. So what does that look like as a UFO documentary if he's literally showing us the people and his journey of getting to those people? In a documentary like that would be stupidly cool. Then there's the line where they're talking about roboticized warfare, autonomous drones, and we talk about that all the time now. It's an important thing in Ukraine, all the wars that are happening, Iran, but this is back, like I say, 2015, 2014. I don't know when he made this trailer, but it would have been in the years running up to that. And so there they are talking about it. So again, it's hinting that we might be dealing with something where this is relevant. Autonomous craft, AI, avatars. Like the fact that it's there suggests that UFOs are a similar thing. Like I say, of course, we didn't see the documentary, so maybe they don't do that at all. But why would they be mentioning autonomous craft and robotics if it wasn't to do with the UFO issue in a UFO documentary? Then there's the line where Tom says, there are things that should have been kept secret, there that shouldn't have been, and were never released. So terrifying and unimaginable, certain people think they shouldn't be public. And by the end of this, you might even agree. That's the line that gives me chills from that, because holy shit, what is he talking about?
Yeah.
You know, we all talk about, could the world handle it? What would disclosure look like? And the truth of it is it depends what disclosure is. If it's just, hey, we found this craft, we don't really know where it's from, you guys thought it was aliens, we don't know, but we haven't been able to get it working, here it is, it's the only one we've ever got. That people would not care about. They'd be over that in days. If the reveal was, we share this planet with something that locks don't matter to, and they can take you from your beds in the middle of the night and there's nothing we can do about it, that's panic stations for the planet, right? And it sounds like Tom's kind of going towards my second suggestion. And it's just like, yeah, that's terrifying. I think it would have been harder hitting. And if that came out in 2015 versus now, you know, we're kind of bored of the hearings now. Back in 2015, we were desperate for a UFO hearing. We'd have paid anyone any amount of money to get it, right? But yeah, we're kind of bored of it now. So I think it possibly would have been more explosive and more impactful if Tom had released this documentary back in 2015.
Interesting. Yeah, I keep going back to, the what ifs. Like, we've basically been told at this point, as you alluded to, and, you know, people like UAP, GERB, and others have said that we kind of essentially, with To the Stars, got the B team. Like, once Hillary, you know, the whole thing happened with the leaks and all that, and Trump became president, everything shifted. And all the people that Tom was talking to just disappeared. This was no longer going to be Hillary, the disclosure president. They didn't want to be involved with Trump and the administration in disclosing what they knew about this topic. So I guess, you know, in terms of that, what do you make of the people we got? You know, we got Steve Justice, we got Chris Mellon, we got Luis Elizondo. And these are quote unquote considered the B team. What do you make of that statement? And with all of them, where do you think we would be? What do you make of all of that, I guess? If that makes sense.
I guess to put it bluntly, I think if Hillary had won in 2016, I think she would, based on the evidence that we've seen, we've been talking about, I think there would have been a big push to release UFO files. Obviously, that didn't happen. And so we had to wait, I mean, almost 10 years now since that. But I think the world's kind of become acclimatized to the conversation now, so the reaction would be a lot less. People like Steve Justice, you know, he worked at Skunkworks. If they're back engineering UFOs, it's at Skunkworks. Like, you know, they would definitely be doing that if they had access to materials. So Steve Justice is always one of these guys who I've thought, well, this is just someone that Tom got connected to. But looking at Mellon and Lou, you know, Lou apparently joined the day before that press conference happened where he was like introduced to the world. So it's interesting thinking about the ideas that are out there in UFO world about certain factions trying to influence narratives and also roll this out in their own way. And just to be clear, I'm not saying Lou is lying or Chris is lying. You know, they had to sneak those things out, the videos that they got out the Pentagon. So they're definitely sincere in their effort to want transparency. But at the same time, I'd love to sit. I almost wish I could be a fly on the wall during a meeting between Lou and Tom the first time they met, so we could see exactly what Lou was bringing to the table and what Tom was going to do without Lou. Because it became the Lou show, right? It just did. It became the Lou show, and Unidentified was Lou talking to military witnesses and things like that. But it's not plan A. You know, they said they wanted to raise like 50 million and build an anti-gravity spaceship and do all this crazy amazing stuff. And then plan B happened and we got what we got. I'm very thankful. I loved Unidentified. I think it's a great series and it holds up. Some of the books Tom's brought out over the years are great. The music, big fan. So, you know, I've loved that. But yeah, I wish that I could secrete myself into another universe and watch that documentary and bring it back to you guys. Because I think, and I recognize it's kind of got in the gapsy, but I think it would have done the job that we all really just want them to get on with.
Me too, man. Me too. Do you think we just took the scenic route? The very bumpy, very ugly, very pothole-ridden road to where we are today. I mean, literally, Trump is saying he's going to disclose all the files. Obama is saying aliens are real. Like, it seems like we could be heading towards some sort of disclosure, or it's all complete bullshit and propaganda, which is probably what it is. But do you think in some weird way we are getting there in terms of the congressional hearings and Burlison going to these locations of stored UFOs? Like, I guess in the end, do you think they were heading towards the same destination as where we are now?
I do. And I love the way you put that, the scenic route. I think that's exactly what's happening. We're taking the scenic route, we're kind of cruising, the windows are down, we're putting chill music on, we're just, not caring as we go. But at the same time, it's different in the sense that I think had they done it in 2015, there was a lot less attention on it. And I think they could have just pulled that Band-Aid off before most of the people that want to keep this under wraps would have even known it happened. I think now all those people are very aware of the narratives. And I think we're seeing a push and pull. People arguing over the map as we're driving the scenic route. Go down here, it's a dead end. Go down there, it's a dead end. Go there, no. I think that's what's happening now. And that's probably why UFOville is just frustrating these days, right? Like there are too many agendas pulling in too many directions. And even in reputable whistleblowers that I trust, there are contradictions. So I almost wish we could have just gotten that one before there was attention on this. But I also get it. As long as we get there, that's the main thing.
Yeah, but you do also bring up a good point. Like, it does seem like the people involved now, whether it's congressional members, senators, AARO, like they all have reasons they're doing this. They all have their own agendas. They all are trying to get certain things out of all of this that perhaps may not have been the case back in 2015, might have been a more altruistic, catastrophic disclosure, as it were. Whereas now it does seem like some of these people might just be riding the wave of how popular the topic is. Maybe they'll get elected, in their congressional seat, all that sort of stuff, get more press. I do wonder that. Like, has the actual mainstreaming of the topic and the congressional involvement actually hindered what could have been actual disclosure? And now it's getting like perverted in a way by everyone's special interests in this topic. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you explained that really well. We look at people like Butcher and Luna, and in the UFO community, people think the world of them. Outside of that, people think their voting records are shocking. They have some horrible morals that they support.
Dude. Yeah, I'll just say it. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I do think it's kind of perverted. And I remember when Trump announced it, there were a lot of reactions where people were just saying like, what's that bit in The Matrix where you get Switch, when Cypher's killing everyone and Switch is about to be shot and she's like, not like this, not like this. Yeah. Like that was the sentiment of UFO world. Like Trump's given us disclosure to distract from an island full of pedophiles. Like not like this, just dirtied.
Not how I expected any of this to go, but neither did Tom. Neither did McCaslin, I'm sure. None of these people expected it to go this way. But look, this is where we are. We have to wrestle with that. We have to accept that. And I guess just hope for the best in so many ways. So I don't know, man. Crazy story. End of the day, a man is missing. I hope they find him. But this is so fascinating, man. We covered so much. I need to let you
really
go.
Did. We need to cover one more thing, though.
Do we?
There was a
Okay.
question in the comments when we were talking about Andrew, and I made
Okay.
that stupid burger joke. Sorry, Andrew. Someone said to us, what's your favorite American burger now that you're in the States, Dan? So I was going to say to you, Ryan, let's just give people our favorite fast food burgers.
Ooh, done. Okay. Fast food burger. Okay. I don't know if you've been able to, you've gone through California, right?
Yeah, I've been all over. I've been to In-N-Out if you were going to ask.
Not In-N-Out. It's not In-N-Out.
Ooh, good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not In-N-Out. You're gonna have to excuse me for 1 sec because the name is escaping me. I'm going to ask my partner, but I'm gonna mute because I know she doesn't want to.
Well, let me tell mine for a second. So mine is, if you go to Asheville, there's a place called Baby Bull, and holy shit, the best burgers I've ever had. They were huge, and I couldn't eat enough of them. But if we're talking strictly fast food that everyone can access all over the USA, I'm going for Wendy's. It is consistent. Yep. Like when we traveled across the whole of the USA, it was the most consistent fast food burger place. Everything else you'd get, like Sonic's I loved, but sometimes it was just awful. So yeah, consistency is important, I think.
Dude, I love
Wendy's takes the crown.
Flame grilled square burgers for sure.
It's great. And there's spicy chicken as well. Oh,
so good, so good. And the Frosties, don't forget the Frosties.
The Frosties, yeah. See, that's a full meal there. That's great. Yeah.
God bless America. The one I was gonna say, and thank you to Jane for reminding me. It's called Habit Burger. If you ever are in the Anaheim area, Irvine area, there's a few of them around there. Oh my God, dude, just so good. So good. In my opinion, the perfect fast food. It's a little more elevated than fast food burgers, but it's quick. You can get in and out of there in less than like 10 minutes with the burger.
Oh wow.
So good.
Well,
so good.
We're headed California way. So in a few months, maybe I'll be able to eat one of those fine Habit burgers and show everyone. We'll do a UFO version of that stupid.
Yes. Yes, we were. See what you've started, Andrew Berger. Thanks, man. Thank you. No, thank you to all of our regulars tonight, Dan. And before I let you go, a special shout out to James Craig for the super chat, to Garrett, to David. Thank you. Have fun in Antarctica, fellas, he says. I love it. And Michelle, thank you so much for the super chat, guys. We truly do appreciate the support tonight, and to all of you for joining us. Dan, before I let you go, my man, what do you got coming up over on the podcast? I just watched your episode with Michael Oyming, the comic book creator.
Oh,
Blue Book,
nice.
Red Book, the upcoming Green Book, I believe it's going to be called. But yeah,
Hopefully,
fascinating.
yeah.
Hopefully, I know, fingers crossed.
Hopefully,
that was
yeah.
such a good conversation you guys had. But yeah, tell us a little about that and what you got coming up over at the podcast.
Yeah, that was a great interview. Bill is so knowledgeable, and he's been doing so much research for those books that I was just like, you have to come on. All these cases from all over the world, back through history. And we even got to who we think is the very first ufologist, who there was a sighting in the 1800s in China, and he ended up painting it and interviewing everyone around them and recording their testimonies. So for me, that makes him the first ufologist. So if you want to learn a little more about that and cases around the world with some amazing visual treats, I'd recommend jump over to our YouTube, What It Means to Be Human, and enjoy that interview. This week, we're going to be doing a news show. And then after that, I can't actually tell you our guests because we have about 20 guests. They're all pretty much going to be like last minute recording. And they're all people that I know the UFO community is so excited to hear from. And I'm really just over the moon that I get to talk to these people, because there's some UFO folk that I never ever thought that I'd get to talk to. So they're coming up. I'm not just being obtuse about not revealing the names. I don't know what's next, but just keep an eye on the channel. I promise there's some really good ones.
I'm hooked, man. I'm ready. I cannot wait to see what you got going on over there. We have put a link to your website in the show notes, so be sure to go check that out, guys. Subscribe wherever you get podcasts to What It Means to Be Human. Awesome, Dan. Well, thank you so much, buddy, for breaking all of this down with me tonight. We went way longer than we probably should have, but I should have known that was going to happen. I hope your poor dog can finally be let free as
He is very relaxed, snoozing.
Okay.
But let's just do one more
One last
shot
look
here.
at Lamb Chop.
There he
Oh my
is.
God.
He's fast asleep there. Fast asleep.
Love the blanket. Love the blanket. Awesome, my man. Well, before you go, I'll let you know and our audience know what I got coming up in just a couple hours here on the podcast. Huge interview over on the American Alchemy podcast dropped with Gary McKinnon, the UFO hacker. I would highly suggest people go over and check that out. It was an awesome interview. However, a couple years ago, I dug deep into the UFO hacking stuff, and I found a hacker prior, I should say, to Gary McKinnon, who did almost the identical amount of damage in security and found some very interesting stuff, UFO stuff. And that was a gentleman named Matthew Bevan from Wales, of all places.
I
So,
know a
there
Matthew
you go,
Bevan
man.
from Wales.
Is it him?
I'm gonna have to check with you after
You're
we're
gonna
off
have
air.
to check on that, dude, because I've been trying to get a hold of him for over a decade
Oh
now.
my God.
I'm so close. I am so close, but you might be the defining factor.
That would be wild if it just turns out that a complete synchronicity. I knew this guy for you.
Oh my God. Please let me know the minute you figure that out. That would be insane. But yeah, this is an episode I hope people will check out on the main feed of the podcast very soon. I go into the Gary McKinnon thing, but I go deep into the hacks of Matthew Bevan, almost a decade prior to Gary McKinnon, and how unbelievably identical their stories are, what they found, how the threat of extradition to the United States to face prosecution was handled, and the very interesting stuff that came from all of it. So a tale of two UFO hackers will be available on the main feed in just a couple hours. And last but not least, please rate and review the podcast wherever you get it. Use the code word DMT in your Apple Podcast reviews or Spotify comments. I would truly appreciate that. What do I have here? Oh, we're going on our 40th volume of witness accounts. So to celebrate, I would like to make this the biggest witness accounts episode ever. So if you have a UFO story you would like to share on the podcast in audio or video form, we're going to try video this time. My emails in the show notes are here on the screen. Dan has been on an episode of Witness Accounts telling his UFO story. He was featured in my book as well. But yeah, if you have your own personal UFO story you would like to tell in audio or video form, we would love to have you on the 40th volume of Witness Accounts. So there you go. And last but not least, we will have this gentleman you're seeing on your screen, and that is Luigi. He is a filmmaker. Ventitelli, I believe, is his last name. If I'm getting that wrong, I do apologize, Luigi. But he's coming out with a brand new documentary about S4, the Bob Lazar story. And he will be on the show in the coming weeks to talk about the documentary. If you have any questions for Luigi, please email them to me or shoot me a message on socials. And let me know. Let me know what you would like to know from filmmaker Luigi. That film should be dropping sometime in April, is what he told me. So yeah, would love to get your questions for that, guys. So I will leave you with all of that. Thank you, Dan. Thank you again, brother,
Thank
for
you.
joining us on Somewhere in the Live Stream. It's always a pleasure, my friend. And I will let everyone go here so you can go be with your poor puppy. Sound good? Thank you, Dan.
Sounds great. Thank you so much. Enjoy Scotland, Ryan. Give my love to Jane. Thank you to the audience. Thank you for watching. Love you all.
Right back at you, buddy. Thank you guys for joining us. And remember, keep your feet on the ground, but never stop searching somewhere in the skies.
nothing to hide.
There's nothing to hide at all.